Chapter 69. On the sixth floor of the villa, in the training room. Looking at the grayish-black book in front of him, Lin Feng was filled with curiosity and mystery. It was as thin as a cicada's wing and as light as a feather. He didn't know what kind of special material was used to make it. It looked as if it had been through thousands of years. The most important thing was, I can only read the first 3 pages. Lin Feng was slightly surprised, but he didn't dare to disobey his father's words. Since his father said so, he naturally had his reasons. I wonder what's so special about this book. Lin Feng murmured softly. Unlike other books, this book didn't have a cover. Carefully opening the grayish-black book cover, Lin Feng was afraid that he would use too much force and destroy the book. What he saw were 2 big black words. In a split second, his heart thumped violently, as if it was about to jump out of his chest. Lin Feng's eyes widened. He tried hard to calm his mind, but he only felt as if layers of waves were constantly crashing against his mind, terrifying, shocking. Ha! He hastily closed the book. Lin Feng's face was pale. He breathed heavily, and his eyes were filled with horror. That feeling was like looking into his father's eyes. Oh my God, what is this? Lin Feng stared at the grayish-black book. Gritting his teeth, he closed his eyes and carefully recalled the 2 big black words he saw just now. After a while, Lin Feng opened his eyes and shook his head in disbelief. He actually couldn't remember what those 2 big black words were. When he saw them, his soul seemed to fly away and be brought into a mysterious world in space. Again, Lin Feng clenched his fist. Focusing all his attention, Lin Feng opened the book again at an extremely fast speed. Hua! His mind shook again. He vaguely saw the outline of those 2 big black words, but in a split second, Lin Feng was dumbfounded. Lin Feng felt as if the sky was spinning and the earth was spinning. Waves of dizziness washed over him. He cursed inwardly, "Oh no," and hastily closed the book. He seemed to have lost his center of gravity and fell to the ground with a thud. His expression seemed to be a little painful, and cold sweat kept seeping out of his forehead. Lin Feng clutched his head tightly. This was not the first time he had felt this way. When he was practicing the control of primordial fire he had once encountered, that was a sign of exhaustion. Huff! Huff! Gasping for air, Lin Feng closed his eyes and rested for a long while before he finally came back to his senses. Supporting himself with his right hand, he struggled to stand up. As he glanced at the unremarkable grayish-black book, his heart raced and his eyes were filled with fear. The book that his father gave him was shockingly terrifying. With my current energy, I can practice limit control of primordial fire for the time it takes to brew a cup of tea. Even in a real battle, I can still fight for the time it takes to burn half an incense stick. However, he only took a few glances, and his energy was depleted. Lin Feng found it hard to believe. The most ridiculous thing was that when he took a few glances, he didn't see anything at all. What a failure. Lin Feng shook his head and put away the mysterious book. Then, he picked up the leaping dragon spear. Clang! The leaping dragon spear shook, and Lin Feng immediately felt a sense of familiarity. The exhaustion of energy was irreparable, and he could only rely on himself to slowly recover. This large amount of free time couldn't be wasted. Practice spear moves. An hour later, putting away the spear, Lin Feng once again aimed at the mysterious book. He was indeed a stubborn person and refused to admit defeat. Inhale, exhale, Lin Feng closed his eyes and took a deep breath. In a split second, he opened his eyes and they emitted a sharp light. This time, I must see those 2 words clearly. Forcefully opening the book, Lin Feng clenched his fists and focused all his attention on one point. In a split second, that familiar feeling attacked him again, as if it was going to bring him into a mysterious space. At this time, Lin Feng gritted his teeth and stared straight ahead. He must not fail again. That black outline gradually became clearer, as if it was focusing. Lin Feng's eyes instantly lit up. The first word, spirit. The second word, the outline still hadn't formed, and it was a blur. Lin Feng quickly closed his eyes and closed the book. If he was a bit later, his energy would be depleted again. Finally, you've improved. Lin Feng smiled as if a burden had been lifted from his shoulders. Although it was very difficult, at least he saw the first word. Spirit? What does that mean? It was just a single word, and he couldn't see any mysteries. Lin Feng didn't want to think too much about it. His head felt tired and weak, and his energy was indeed on the verge of exhaustion. Picking up the leaping dragon spear beside him, Lin Feng's face slowly revealed a bright smile. Looking at this mysterious book was purely out of curiosity, but practicing the spear was what he liked to do the most. One day later, inside the training room, the sound of the spear moving was like dancing in the wind. Hua! Lin Feng withdrew his spear, and his face revealed a satisfied expression. The fourth move, Butterfly Dance Flying Cluster, has been completely comprehended. Although this move is not strong, it is soft with hardness and can be used to counterattack. It is a rare switch. If it is combined with the third move, Flowing Light Flash, the power will definitely increase greatly. I wonder how much harder the fifth move will be compared to the fourth move. Lin Feng faintly felt anticipation. Every time he comprehended a spear move, he seemed to have a deeper understanding of the spear's mysteries. This kind of feeling was very satisfying. That's right, I almost saw the second word. Let's try again. Putting down the leaping dragon spear, Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Opening the mysterious book, Lin Feng was no longer as careful as before. His eyes suddenly lit up. Lin Feng's mind was completely focused in an instant. His eyes directly skipped the first word, spirit, and landed on the second blurry black word. His eyebrows were tightly knitted, and he stared at it with full concentration. It was as if countless, inexplicable existences were entering his mind, but Lin Feng was not moved at all. Half a second. 1 second. Shua! His eyes suddenly lit up. Lin Feng clenched his fists, closed the book with a pa sound, and shouted towards the sky. He finally saw the second word, soul. Soul. Lin Feng smiled and shook his head. From the book that Zi Yao gave him, The Basics of a Fire Spirit Master, he had seen this term before. However, the book only mentioned it briefly and did not describe it in detail. It only talked about the composition of a person's body, which was the combination of the body and the soul. As for Sky Spirit Masters, they belong to the category of people with stronger soul abilities. I wonder what's in the book. Lin Feng was rather curious, but he suddenly smiled. I'm being greedy. I can only see 2 words clearly. If I want to continue reading and understand the contents of the book, I don't know how long it will take. For now, let's put it aside. Lin Feng nodded. Right now, he still needed to cultivate and increase his strength. Although he was extremely curious about this mysterious book that his father gave him, he could only suppress his curiosity. There was no other way. It would take a day to read 2 words. How long would it take to read a line of words? How long would it take to read a page? It would be better to use this time to cultivate extreme control of primordial fire, so that his control of primordial fire could reach the 3rd stage, fire condensation. Once he became a firefighter, his strength would increase by leaps and bounds. Phew! Lin Feng took a deep breath. After making up his mind, Lin Feng immediately put away the mysterious book. Picking up the leaping dragon spear, Lin Feng casually waved it twice with a clang sound. His right hand grasped the back of the spear and slowly raised the leaping dragon spear. Then he slowly lowered the spear in his body at a 90-degree angle, maintaining a standing posture. Spear dummy. Although it was a simple move, it was highly recommended in the basics of spear arts. Practicing the spear dummy could make one more proficient in using the spear, like a fish in water. Treat the spear as an extension of the arm, a part of the body. Let's practice like this for an hour. Lin Feng slowly closed his eyes. In the evening, in the hall on the 1st floor of the villa. It was the busiest time of the day in the house, and it was also the happiest time for Lin Feng. The whole family gathered together and ate a warm dinner. They laughed heartily and were filled with joy. This kind of happiness could not be bought with any amount of money. In the hall, there were many maids dressed as servants, and the housekeeper who was in charge of taking care of the entire villa. There were a total of 20 to 30 servants. They were all busy, making the villa seem lively. To the current Lin Feng, this was just a small amount of money. The most important thing was to let his family live comfortably and happily. "Mother, how do you feel after eating the spirit herb?" Lin Feng looked at his mother and asked with concern. "Not bad. I feel much better, and my strength seems to have increased," Lin Wanxing said with a smile. Lin Feng nodded with a smile. He was most afraid that his mother would not be able to absorb the spirit herb if it was too strong. However, it seemed that the problem was not big. "Eldest young master, madam, dinner is ready," the housekeeper said respectfully. Lin Feng nodded. Although he was not used to being addressed as eldest young master, he followed the housekeeper. "Let's go, mother." Lin Feng helped his mother, Lin Wanxing, up. "Okay. Brother, do you know that something big happened outside today?" Lin Shu said exaggeratedly. "Oh my God, the entire Shaoyang Plaza is filled with people. Is that so?" Lin Feng replied with a smile. Every time this happened, his sister, Lin Shu, would be the most active one. She was like an oriole, chattering nonstop. However, it was enough to believe half of what she said. "Second brother, eldest brother doesn't believe me." "Shui," shook Lin Yun's arm. Lin Yun smiled. "Who asked you to always exaggerate? It's normal that eldest brother doesn't believe you." Shui couldn't help but snort and wrinkle her nose. "Second brother is also naughty, always making fun of Shui. However, it's true this time. I heard that many big shots came. Even sect leader Qin Hua showed up." "Oh." Lin Feng's eyes couldn't help but light up. Even the sect leader showed up? It seemed that something big had really happened. Please recommend, please collect. Chapter 70. The Scorching Sun sect has lost 3 experts of Emperor Wu's level. Lin Yun said slowly. One of them was a genius born in Cloud Sun City, Gale Sword Wuning. Although his body is gone, a grand mourning ceremony was held in his hometown. Many important people of the Scorching Sun sect came. "I see." Lin Feng suddenly understood. No wonder Sovereign Qin Hua appeared. This was indeed a big deal. "Brother, we didn't see the scene. Wow, it was so grand," Lin Shu said exaggeratedly. The whole Cloud Sun Plaza was filled with hundreds of thousands of people mourning. It was completely silent. "This is respect for an expert," Lin Feng said softly. A martial artist, especially a real expert, had a very high status in the Sky Martial Continent. Yes, after all, that was an expert of Emperor Wu's level. Lin Yun nodded. It can be said that a stomp of his foot could make the whole Cloud Sun City quake. No matter how high the sovereign position of the sovereign and deputy sovereign is, they are only advanced martial grandmasters. They can't be compared. "Do you know how Wu Ning died?" Lin Feng was curious. It was rare to see 3 experts of Emperor Wu's level die at once. Lin Yun's face was solemn. He said softly, "Brother, the beast riot has started again." Lin Feng nodded. His face was also solemn. When he was young, his family had experienced a beast riot. The memory was still fresh. Every 10 years or so, the magical beasts in the endless wilderness would have a large-scale riot. They would rush out of the wilderness and attack the Sky Martial Continent. From a small scale at the beginning to a medium scale, and then to a crazy attack. It would take at least a few months, at most a year, or even a few years. "What's the level of the beast riot?" Lin Feng asked. Lin Yun stretched out his hand and said, "The initial estimate is that it's a level 5 or 6 beast riot, but I'm not sure." "No wonder." Lin Feng nodded. According to the strength of the magical beasts, the strength of the attacks was divided into different levels. The lowest level was the 1st level, while the highest level was the 9th level. 10 years ago, a mere grade 3 magical beast riot was already soul-stirring and terrifying. Now, a grade 5 magical beast riot, the strength of the magical beast was 10 times more powerful. Why was it that in the Sky Martial Continent, the status of martial artists was so high and the strong were so respected? That was the reason. None of the warriors could resist the beasts. Humans, they had long perished. Up till now, the Sky Martial continent has experienced beast group revolutions. Most of them are rank 1 to 3. Rank 4 to 6 beast group revolutions are less than 10%, which is very rare. The most severe one was the level 7 beast group riot 300 years ago. At that time, the martial artists who perished numbered in the hundreds of millions. Lin Yun said with a soft sigh. Lin Feng also nodded. In the rocket squad, he had heard it when everyone was chatting. That was a beast riot that lasted for 8 years. It could be called a nightmare. A large number of martial grandmasters and Emperor Wu were killed. Even existences that surpassed Emperor Wu's level were killed. That year, the legendary martial artist Jean Petillon appeared out of nowhere. One man and one blade. He consecutively killed 3 king-level magical beasts. Finally, he killed the golden-armored Tyrannosaurus Rex and became known as the heaven-breaking martial god. As for his saber technique, Skybreaker, it was the only ultimate weapon manual in the Virtual Hunter shop. Brother, if you go out to the wilderness, you must be careful. Lin Yun's voice was slightly worried. Yes, I know. Lin Feng replied softly. He understood his brother's concerns. With the magical beasts invading the Sky Martial continent, no place in the wilderness was safe. Even in the air, plains, and highlands where commander-level magical beasts rarely appeared. Once the beast riot occurred, a large number of commander-level magical beasts would appear in the blink of an eye. Or even horde-level magical beasts. So powerful. Lin Shui covered her mouth and said in surprise, Second brother, is a rank 7 beast riot the most powerful? No, there are rank 8 and rank 9 beast riots. Lin Yun shook his head. Then what is it like? Lin Shui asked curiously. Lin Feng's eyes couldn't help but reveal a trace of doubt. Right, the most serious beast riot in the Sky Martial continent was only a rank 7 beast riot. Why would there be a rank 9 beast riot? Was it just imagination? Impossible? The book didn't mention it, so I don't know. Lin Yun shrugged. Okay, Feng or Yin let's eat. Lin Wanqing smiled and said, if we were still in the Lin family village, we would have to be on edge. But in Sky Sun City, we don't have to worry. Mother is right. Lin Feng nodded and said, unless it was an attack by flying magical beasts, otherwise with Sky Sun City's geographical location, it would not be affected by the beast riot. Unless... Lin Feng smiled indifferently and didn't continue. But thinking about it, it was not possible. Unless the energy shield was broken and the human army was defeated. If that was the case, not only Sky Sun City, but the entire Sky Martial continent and humankind would face the end of the world. After dinner, Lin Feng once again sent himself to the training room. For a martial artist cultivation, talent was important, but hard work and perseverance were also indispensable. Let's start by practicing extreme control of primordial fire. Wearing the red gloves, Lin Feng's hands were like 2 balls of blazing flames. His eyes shone with a bright light. With a thought, in a split second, 2 clusters of flames appeared with a sizzling sound. The primordial fire was like a sapling growing at its limit. The 5th gear primordial fire completely exploded. The primordial fire continued to emerge from his hands, growing at an astonishing speed. 20 centimeters, 25 centimeters, 30 centimeters. It still did not stop. Lin Feng's eyes revealed a look of surprise. The day before he entered the wilderness, the maximum height he could control was 30 centimeters. 32, 33. His hands trembled slightly. The color of the primordial fire became darker and darker, and Lin Feng's surprise became more and more intense. The more primordial fire he could control, the more powerful it was, which meant that his control over the primordial fire was stronger. 35, 36. The primordial fire reached its highest point, exceeding the load that Lin Feng could control, and was extinguished in a split second. Lin Feng, on the other hand, was stunned on the spot. He was in a state of shock. The height of his control over the primordial fire had actually increased by 6 centimeters. This doesn't make sense, although my physical fitness has indeed improved a lot in the endless wilderness. But Lin Feng frowned slightly. He understood that physical fitness and control over the primordial fire were 2 completely different things. The control over the primordial fire required continuous training, and training again to grow. It was impossible to improve so much in such a short time. Strange. Lin Feng shook his head. He could not figure out the reason. But who cares? Soon, Lin Feng started training again. Although it was much more boring than spear training, the increase in strength was real. Moreover, as long as his control over the primordial fire reached the fire condensation stage, he would be able to become a firefighter. Lin Feng felt excited and expectant. Time passed by minute. An incense stick's worth of time, half a cup of tea, it was still continuing. Lin Feng was greatly surprised. You should be able to persist for about the time it takes to brew a cup of tea, but now, he was still doing it with ease. My energy, when did it increase so much? Although he was puzzled, Lin Feng did not get distracted. Soon, as time passed, Lin Feng slowly exhausted his energy and completed a round of limit control of the primordial fire training. However, the time spent was no less than the time it takes to brew a cup of tea. It had increased by more than double. Unbelievable. Lin Feng laughed to himself. That feeling was as if he had randomly picked up 10,000 heavenly martial coins. It was very interesting and happy. If I can train twice as long, my control over the primordial fire will increase by twice as fast. Gently clenching his fist, Lin Feng felt a little excited. Although he didn't know why his energy suddenly increased so much, it was definitely a good thing, wasn't it? Fortunately, I temporarily gave up on the mysterious book Father gave me, Lin Feng muttered to himself. He casually picked up the leaping dragon spear and shook it. He was stunned. No, it can't be. Suddenly, a thought appeared in Lin Feng's mind, causing him to be extremely shocked. Could it be that this abnormal increase in energy and the increase in control of the primordial fire is related to that mysterious book? Yes, that's right. Otherwise, how could it increase so suddenly without any signs? This is too coincidental. When he used the primordial fire in the ruins of he did not feel anything special. If there was already a huge change at that time, there was no reason why he did not feel anything at all. Lin Feng was very clear about his own body. No wonder when I flipped through it, my energy consumption was so astonishing. Lin Feng seemed to have vaguely grasped a feeling, but he could not put his finger on it. He lightly pursed his lips, and immediately a smile appeared on his face. I'm so stupid. Instead of making unnecessary guesses, it's better to try it for another day. Whether it's really effective or not, we'll know tomorrow. A simple way to understand the truth and dispel the confusion. Even if it had nothing to do with this mysterious book, at least he knew the answer. But in Lin Feng's mind, this mattered. It was most likely related. Outside the villas in the central district of Cloud Sun City, a man with a deep scar on his face stood indifferently, with a saber at his waist, his expression cold. Cloud Sun City is really lively. A useless Emperor Wu is dead, and they still mourn Pooh. The scarred man spat out a mouthful of saliva, and his face was filled with disdain. He raised his head to look at the group of villas and smiled coldly. This 4-star prey lives quite well. All right, I'll treat it as your grave. The cold smile was somewhat sinister under the starlight, and as his eyes blurred, very quickly, the scarred man disappeared into the night. Recommend, reward, the more the better. A new book has a leader. I'm so happy. Thank you for your support. You are all the most handsome carrot. Chapter 71. In the villa area, many disciples of the martial school could be seen patrolling from time to time. Mang, be serious. Don't be distracted. Don't worry, Brother Li. This is the residence of the sect master and deputy sect master. Who dares to make trouble here? Even so, we have to do our duty well. The two senior martial warriors of the martial school chatted as they walked. It had to be said that the defense of the villa area was quite good, especially at night. Every once in a while, disciples of the martial school in martial clothes could be seen scouting around to prevent suspicious people from entering. However, swoosh. In the night, a black figure flashed, and the scar on his face looked more ferocious under the starlight. A bunch of trash. The scarred man smiled coldly and stood indifferently. The two disciples of the martial school in the distance gradually disappeared, but they had no idea that there was one more person behind them, but it was no wonder that they did that. After all, the gap in strength was too big. It's been 20 years. I didn't expect to come back here. The scar man's face was full of surprise. He immediately snorted and curled his lips, seeming a little dissatisfied. It's really tiring to sneak around like this. Just like that year. It's so cool to kill directly. In his opinion, he could just kill all the way. Who could stop him? Sect Master? Deputy Sect Master? What a joke. It's here. The scarred man's figure was very illusory. He turned into a residual shadow and fell in front of Lin Feng's villa. A murderous intent appeared on his cold face. He ground his teeth. TSK, I hope it's a little surprise. If it's a 5-star prey, it'll be cool. Taking a step forward, the scar man's face was full of confidence, but in the next moment, he was dumbfounded. His body seemed to have stepped into a bloody space. It was scarlet and horrible like hell. It was extremely bloody. Countless ferocious ghosts and demons rushed to his face, screaming and screaming. The scarred man was stunned. He wanted to pull out his saber, but found that his body seemed to be fixed. The ferocious claws and teeth in front of him struck like lightning, but he could not move at all. He roared hysterically, but no sound came out. In the villa, Lin Xiaotian sat in front of the window with a calm expression. It seems that Feng seems to have caused some trouble and came back. At this moment, Lin Feng did not know that he had just taken a detour from the gates of hell. He was completely focused on the mysterious book and had long since thrown everything else aside. Just a bit more for the third word. I failed again. Lin Feng shook his head helplessly. He had originally thought that if he slowly read word by word, he would be able to read a few words a day. However, he discovered that with every word he read, it became harder and harder to see clearly, and the consumption of his energy increased. His energy had obviously doubled, but still, with a single glance, he could see the bottom. Rest for a while and practice the spear. Lin Feng nodded and looked at the mysterious book with a hint of stubbornness. I refuse to believe in heresy. I'll fight you to the end. That is what's wrong, Ame. Brotherly, look. There's a person lying there. Something big happened in the villa area. Someone died. This kind of thing had not happened in the villa in the central area of Shaoyang City for nearly 20 years. After all, this was where the big shots of Shaoyang City lived. It had the strictest defense in Shaoyang City. Ordinary people would not cause trouble here, let alone die. What's wrong? What's wrong? Lin Feng and his family were all awakened and sleepily opened the door. Lin Wanqing was suddenly startled. Outside his house, there were layers upon layers of people densely packed together. At this time, the housekeeper had already run over in panic. Madam, it's not good, it's not good. Lin Feng looked at the man in front of him with sparkling eyes. He had never seen this man before. The scar on his face was deep to the bone, and there was a sword at his waist. The man's eyes were wide open, and his expression was full of horror. He looked as if he was scared to death. There was no blood on his body, and there were no signs of fighting around him. It was quite bizarre. At this time, there was a loud noise not far away. Lin Feng raised his head and saw Qin Hua and Qin Lai walking over with a solemn face. He walked over and nodded. Sect leader, vice sect leader. I already know what happened. Qin Hua put his hands behind his back and glanced at the scar man on the ground. In a split second, his expression changed. No, it's impossible. Qin Hua could not help but take a step back. Qin Lai was shocked. What's wrong, brother? Lin Feng also felt that Qin Hua was a little unusual. With Qin Hua's status and strength, there was no reason for him to be so panicked when he saw a corpse. Unless Lin Feng glanced at the corpse, his eyes shining. Qin Hua did not say a word. He bent down with a solemn face and used his right hand to pull out the sword at the scar man's waist. However, his body sank slightly. Lin Feng's eyes suddenly brightened. With Qin Hua's strength, it was difficult for him to hold this sword. Gosh, what kind of saber is that? Lin Feng had a bad feeling. Qin Hua sighed softly and nodded. He glanced at Lin Feng, then at the crowd, and finally at Qin Lai. It really is the scarred Wang Hu. This tiger-tooth sword is authentic. Qin Lai shook his head and said, he disappeared 10 years ago. I didn't expect him to still be alive. Is this scarred Wang Hu very powerful? Lin Feng asked. 20 years ago, he was already a beginner Emperor Wu. He used to be an expert of the Scorching Sun sect, but his personality was savage and cruel. Later, he was exiled by the Scorching Sun sect because he humiliated someone's wife and daughter and slaughtered their entire family. Since then, he disappeared from the Tianwu continent without any news. I didn't expect to see him here today. Qin Hua muttered. There are no signs of fighting nearby, no bloodstains. It seems he's already dead? Qin Lai asked. Lin Feng nodded. He looked like a corpse that had been abandoned by someone. Moreover, with Emperor Wu's level of physical fitness, even if he died for 10 days or half a month, his corpse would not rot. Maybe he's here for you, brother. Qin Hua looked at Qin Lai. 2 years ago, he had a deep grudge with his brother, Wang Bao. Don't make fun of me, brother. Qin Lai scratched his head. Who knows how long ago that was? Judging from these signs, some expert must have used his corpse as a sacrifice. After all, this was the place where the murder happened back then. 20 years ago, corpses were everywhere. Sigh. Lin Feng suddenly understood. So this scarred Wang who had humiliated someone's wife and daughter and slaughtered their entire family here 20 years ago. He had committed a heinous crime. No wonder his corpse was abandoned here. It's karma. Lin Feng sighed softly. I think so. Qin Hua smiled. Otherwise, with his strength, if he went on a killing spree, not to mention you and me, no one in the entire Firmament City would be able to stop him. Indeed, 20 years ago, he was already a beginner Emperor Wu. His current strength, how terrifying would that be? As Qin Hua and Qin Lai took the corpse away, the crowd quickly dispersed. Lin Feng also returned to the villa. Although there were faint doubts and fears in his heart, they were immediately denied. At first, there was a period of time when he really thought that it was because his identity as a fire spirit master had been exposed. However, after thinking about it, the possibility was not high. If that scarred Wang who was here for me, how could I still be alive? Lin Feng couldn't help but smile. His strength was on a completely different level from that of scarred Wang Hu. However, I really need to become stronger quickly. Lin Feng nodded. If something really happens, I'll have the ability to protect myself. As long as my physical fitness breaks through to beginner martial grandmaster and my control of fire reaches the 3rd stage, fire condensation, I won't be afraid of anyone below the level of Emperor Wu. The power of fire was 3 levels higher than his physical fitness. With a beginner martial grandmaster physique, the power of fire could reach beginner Emperor Wu. In an underground palace, it was dazzling and magnificent. Captain, the mission failed. Scarred is dead, the skinny man said with a cold expression. So F *King useless. The black-clothed man, sitting on the golden dragon throne, snorted angrily. You can't even do such a small thing. How am I going to explain it to the king? Captain, that 4-star prey might be protected by a strong warrior. The skinny man said in a deep voice. Then it proves that this prey is the real deal. The black-clothed man nodded. He looked at the skinny man and said coldly, Black Snake, this mission is for you. Don't alert the enemy for now. Act according to the situation. Yes, Captain. The skinny man named Black Snake retreated. On the 6th floor of the villa, in the training room. Bang! Bang! The flames spread, and the surroundings were filled with a strong fiery red color. It was extremely hot. Lin Feng controlled the fire with both hands and kept burning it. Looking at the 40-centimeter tall flame in front of him, the corners of his mouth curved into a smile and a sense of satisfaction. From 36 centimeters to 40 centimeters, it took time. Only one day, one had to know that the higher the flame, the harder it was to raise it. According to Lin Feng's estimation, if he followed the speed of the primordial fire limit training, it would take at least 10 days. But now, the efficiency had increased by too much. And this was only secondary. The most important thing was that his energy had increased again. From the time of 2 cups of tea to now, he could already last for 3 cups of tea. All these changes were because he flipped through the mysterious book. Sure enough, it's too useful. Lin Feng was secretly happy. At this speed, the time it took for his control of the primordial fire to reach the fire condensation stage would be greatly reduced. Continue to practice. Lin Feng clenched his fist, his eyes shining. With a goal, there was motivation. This feeling of strength constantly increasing. It was very good. 6 hours later, let's take a rest. Lin Feng stretched his body and drank water to replenish the water in his body. It's almost time to eat. Muttering to himself, Lin Feng kept the book and put the leaping dragon spear aside. He casually picked up the fluorescent compass and turned it on. Suddenly, beep, a sound was heard. Lin Feng couldn't help but be surprised. He looked at the screen. Xiao. Lin Feng was stunned. Please recommend. Chapter 72. Lin Feng smiled inexplicably as the image of a girl in a purple dress appeared in his mind. Her beautiful face, without any makeup, was like the morning glow reflecting the snow. Although Xiao was his guide, and he could look for her if he needed anything. In fact, Lin Feng did not like to trouble others, especially Xiao, who occupied a large place in his heart. Of course, this was related to personality, but Lin Feng's subconscious was more dominant. He did not want his relationship with Xiao to be mixed with too many other things, similar to a master and disciple relationship. The communication message was very simple, a series of numbers and symbols. Lin Feng smiled. If it were before, he would not have understood the content of the message, but after buying the elementary teleportation array, he understood. This represented the coordinates. It seems that this teleportation array was not a loss. Putting on the fluorescent compass, Lin Feng sniffed his body and murmured, "Take a shower and change your clothes. It won't be too late to go then." With that, Lin Feng left the practice room. "Feng, it's time to eat," Lin Wanqing shouted. Lin Feng smiled and shook his head. "Don't wait for me, mother. I have something to do." With that, he walked toward the teleportation array in the hall. Taking a bath and changing clothes was basic courtesy and respect, but it would be too unreasonable for him to go after having a meal. How could he let Xiao wait for too long? He skillfully entered the coordinates, and soon, with a beep confirmation, a white light lit up, and in a split second, Lin Feng disappeared. Oh my God! So many flowers and trees. Out of the teleportation array, Lin Feng was dazzled. All he saw were red flowers and green willows, blooming flowers, and towering trees everywhere. Stepping on the green grass, it was comfortable and soft. Looking at the colorful flowers in full bloom, he seemed to have come to a fairyland on Earth. Is this the wilderness? Lin Feng was very curious, but it did not look like a residence at all. With his eyesight, he could not see the end. Of course not. Gentle laughter rang out, like the sound of silver bells in the wind. Lin Feng was startled, and then he smiled awkwardly. Looking towards the source of a voice, Lin Feng saw a purple figure in the distance. Although she was surrounded by flowers, she was as fresh and pleasant as a flower fairy, beautiful and unique. As he got closer, Lin Feng could clearly see her beautiful face and the special crescent moon mark on her forehead. "Welcome to Sky City." Xiao smiled. Sky City? Lin Feng tried to recall the knowledge in his mind. Clearly, he had never heard of it before. "Sorry for the wait," Lin Feng said apologetically. Xiao smiled. Her beautiful eyes stared into Lin Feng's eyes as a hint of surprise flashed in them. "You've improved a lot." "Yes." Lin Feng nodded, not modest at all. In a short period of time, he had indeed improved a lot, no matter in every aspect. "I want to reach the requirements as soon as possible." Looking up at Xiao, Lin Feng's eyes were filled with persistence. In addition to wanting to become stronger, Lin Feng also had a desire that no one else knew, so that he would not be so far away from Xiao. "I don't think that's a requirement for you." Xiao smiled gently. Just as Lin Feng was pondering over this sentence, Xiao smiled and winked, as if she was implying something. By the way, do you know about the Beast Riot? Lin Feng nodded. I heard that it's a 5th-level Beast Riot. Smiling non-committally, Ziyao said, in the first stage of a 5th-level Beast Riot, there won't be an Ultralisk Overlord. Lin Feng was startled, and then his eyes lit up. What Ziyao meant was, in 3 days, 8 Emperor Wu from the Tianwu Chamber of Commerce died. 11 Emperor Wu from the Hunter Organization died. 14 Emperor Wu from the 5 Great Sects died, and 18 Emperor Wu from the Tianwu Army died. Ziyao's eyes flashed with a faint light. The first stage has just begun, and there are already 51 Emperor Wu-level experts who have died in the Tianwu continent. There are so many martial grandmasters and martial warriors that it's impossible to count. Lin Feng was stunned. From his younger brother, he only knew that the Scorching Sun sect had lost 3 Emperor Wu-level experts. But he did not know the entire Tianwu continent had undergone such a huge change. Yes, I'm so stupid. The Scorching Sun sect is only one of the 5 great sections. And the 5 Great Sect Alliance is only one of the 4 great powers of the Tianwu continent. What a terrifying beast riot. This is only the first stage, and 51 Emperor Wu-level experts have already died. Lin Feng sighed in amazement. From Ziyao's words, he finally understood how frightening and terrifying this 5th-grade beast riot was. That's not right. Lin Feng was stunned. Ziyao had clearly said, in the first stage of a 5th-level beast riot, there won't be an Ultralisk Overlord. Could it be? Lin Feng abruptly raised his head in realization, and his eyes met Ziyao's clear and bright eyes that were like the stars. Pursing her red lips, Ziyao slowly said, that's right. It's not a 5th-level beast riot, nor a 6th-level beast riot. This is just a message to calm the people. Although his voice was soft, Lin Feng was incomparably shocked when he heard it. It's not a 5th-level beast riot, nor a 6th-level beast riot. Could it be a 7th-level beast riot? Lin Feng clearly knew that the most serious beast riot that the Tianwu continent had ever encountered was the 7th-level beast riot 300 years ago. At that time, hundreds of millions of martial artists had died. That was a nightmare that lasted for 8 years. If not for the heaven-breaking martial god Jean Patillon, the human race would have already perished. Even so, the human race had to spend 100 years to recover. Was history going to repeat itself? Endless worry rose in his heart. Lin Feng's face was very serious. However, Ziyao's calm voice suddenly sounded in his ears, causing him to feel as if he was struck by lightning. This time, it's an 8th-level beast riot, and even... Ziyao sighed softly. 9th level. It's true. It's really a 9th-level beast riot. Lin Feng opened his eyes wide and looked at Ziyao in disbelief. These words, coming from Ziyao's mouth, he did not doubt at all. Back then, the rampage of the 7th-grade beast had almost razed the Tianwu continent to the ground. This time, the rampage of the 8th-grade beasts. Could the human race still survive? Would there be a second, heaven-breaking martial god? As if she understood what Lin Feng was thinking, Ziyao smiled indifferently. The heaven-breaking martial god from 300 years ago is long gone. Even if it's a 7th-level beast riot, the human race only has a 50% chance of winning. As for the 8th-level beast riot, the human race's chance of winning is less than 1%. Less than 1%? Lin Feng smiled bitterly. This chance, in other words, was only a theoretical possibility. The news is sealed. Only experts at the level of Emperor Wu have the qualifications to know. Ziyao nodded lightly. However, with Lin Feng's potential, it's only a matter of time before you reach the level of Emperor Wu. I'll tell you first so that you can be mentally prepared. In the first 3 to 4 months, the demonic beasts will test the waters. We call it the first phase, which is the initial phase. Around a year later, the demonic beasts will start to attack in batches, causing chaos everywhere. This is the second phase, which is the middle phase. At this time, there will be a small number of king-level demonic beasts participating in the war. In the second and third year, the demonic beasts will launch a large-scale attack. Many powerful demonic beasts from the depths of the wilderness will appear. There will be a large number of king-level demonic beasts, as well as rare dragon-type demonic beasts. This phase is the later phase. The demonic beast attack power is comparable to the 7th-level beast riot. Lin Feng nodded. In other words, 2 years later, the Tianwu continent will face a great disaster. In the 4th and 5th year, when a large number of dragon-type demonic beasts start to participate in the war. Zi Yao smiled helplessly and shook her head. The human race will definitely go extinct. The Tianwu continent will be destroyed by the tsunami of demonic beasts. Only a small number of titled martial gods will be able to survive. Titled martial gods were powerful existences that surpassed Emperor Wu's level. Lin Feng nodded, his heart filled with shock. In other words, in order to survive, he had to become a titled martial god before the last phase of the beast riot. Was it possible? Lin Feng unconsciously clenched his fists. The determination in his heart did not allow him to think of anything else. It had to be possible. After returning home, Lin Feng closed himself in the cultivation room. He was unable to calm down for a long time. Compared to what Zi Yao had said to him, the death of Wang Hu with the scar on his face was as insignificant as a sesame seed. What was the death of an expert on the level of Emperor Wu? In the entire Tianwu continent, in just 3 days, 51 experts on the level of Emperor Wu had already died. Furthermore, this number, and it was still increasing. The nightmare had begun again. Clenching his fists, Lin Feng's expression was incomparably solemn. He did not tell anyone about this matter, nor could he tell anyone about it. Is the human race going to go extinct? Lin Feng slowly muttered to himself. According to Zi Yao, although the heaven-breaking martial god Zhang Patian had killed the golden-armored T-Rex, he had also been heavily injured. And this was the reason why the nightmarish beast riot had lasted for 8 whole years. But that was only a beast riot of the 7th rank, and there was only one golden-armored T-Rex. And now, it was a beast riot of the 8th rank that was 10 times more terrifying. Wah! Lin Feng fiercely stood up. The confusion in his eyes disappeared like the wind. What's the point of thinking so much? It will happen. No matter how I try to avoid it, I can't avoid it. Rather than blaming the heavens and blaming others, why not make use of every minute and every second to cultivate, and cultivate again? His experiences since young had already trained Lin Feng to be unyielding. He was not afraid of failure, nor was he afraid of challenges and difficulties. Even if there is only a 1% chance, I will not give up. Lin Feng clenched his fists tightly, his eyes shining brightly. Only by becoming a titled martial god can I have a chance to avoid this disaster. The stronger I am, the more likely my family will be able to survive. I have a responsibility to support the entire family and protect my family. Because I am a man, roaring twice, seeking recommendation, seeking reward, carrot, carrot. Chapter 73. Some people, when faced with setbacks and failures, would be afraid and would give up. And some people, with their stubbornness, would become stronger the more setbacks they faced. The more dangerous it was, the more they would go against the current. Lin Feng, without a doubt, was the second type of person. Time quietly passed as Lin Feng continued his endless training. However, every day, every moment, every minute, every second, Lin Feng's strength was steadily increasing. Whether it was the firmament spear art, the control of the primordial fire, or looking at the progress of the mysterious book. Although he only saw 2 words on the first day, he only saw 2 words on the second day, and even the 3rd, 4th, and 5th day were the same. However, perseverance and training was ultimately very useful. As he flipped through the mysterious book, Lin Feng's energy increased significantly, far exceeding his control of the primordial fire. On the 6th day, he could already see 3 words. On the 10th day, he could see 4 words. On the 12th day, he could see 5 words. This was a period of rapid improvement. Lin Feng's energy had grown from a sesame-like existence to a mung bean. It had increased by nearly 10 times. As for the primordial fire limit training, from the time he could last for the time it took to brew a cup of tea to now, he could train for as long as an hour. Soul, heart, primordial spirit. As the saying goes, the spirit is the origin and the soul is the god. Born with essence, the battle between the two essences is the god. Carefully savoring these two sentences, Lin Feng could see everything in the mysterious book. It was not a mental cultivation method, nor was it some kind of secret training manual. It was like a brief introduction, an overview, as if it was explaining something, such as the essence of the soul. Lin Feng was not clear. Apart from being able to understand that the so-called soul was the heart and the primordial spirit, he was not clear on any other meaning. Perhaps energy is produced by the soul? Lin Feng smiled and shook his head. For the time being, he could not understand. Although he was not clear on the meaning, it did not affect him much. The important thing was what benefits the mysterious book could bring him, as well as help. Half a month passed by in a flash. Bang! Bang! The flames burned fiercely, and the dark red color showed how powerful they were. Effortlessly controlling the primordial fire, the scarlet chain gloves engulfed both of Lin Feng's hands. Lin Feng's face was filled with a joyous smile. Ha! Ha ha ha! Lin Feng's hearty laughter continuously reverberated in the sealed training room. With a slight movement of his right hand, the blazing flame suddenly changed its shape, as if it was being squeezed by an external force. The flame strangely grew in reverse, concave downwards. Lin Feng pursed his lips, his eyes burning with passion. The third stage of controlling primordial fire, congealing fire. In the second stage, fire gathering, the primordial fire could only be simply attached to the fist to create destruction and power. However, in the third stage, fire congealing, the primordial fire could be transformed into any shape, allowing the fire spirit master to control and grasp it. Pah! The primordial fire was extinguished. Lin Feng exhaled lightly and smiled indifferently. I just entered the fire congealing stage. Although there's still some distance before I can become a firefighter, but the goal is already in sight. To be able to control primordial fire to fire congealing was a requirement to become a firefighter, but not all. Step by step, I will start with the most basic one-handed suppression of the fireball. Lin Feng nodded. Firefighters were good at guerrilla warfare, mid-range attacks, and focused on sensing the primordial fire. The attack was simple and direct, fireball technique. Small fireball, medium fireball, large fireball, one hand, two hands, the coordination between the two, the change in speed, the frequency of the fireball, the angle, etc. Every detail was a skill, and they were all requirements. Simple did not mean the power was weak. Any simple thing, if it reached the pinnacle, would also be a terrifying existence. 3 days later. Finally, I can successfully compress it into a fireball. Lin Feng smiled. A cluster of flames suddenly appeared on his right hand, and in an instant, it was slowly compressed into a round shape by an invisible force, as if a small red ball was quietly standing on his right hand. But in reality, it was filled with an extremely terrifying power. Lin Feng's eyes burned fiercely, and his right arm turned slightly. In a split second, the small fireball streaked across the sky and flew straight forward. Wherever it passed, there was a chee-chee sound, as if even the air was burning. Its speed was extremely fast. Boom! The small fireball fiercely hit a huge green rock in front of it, and in an instant, a fiery red light bloomed. The huge green rock in front of him that was half the height of a person disappeared without a trace, and Lin Feng could not help but reveal a bright and charming smile on his face. Looking around, the training room was filled with these huge rocks of different colors. He had bought them specifically for the purpose of practicing the fireball technique. The huge green rock had a defense level of 64 titanium, which was comparable to an ordinary high-level martial grandmaster without a titanium energy cloak. Although the fireball was small, its power was not small. No wonder firefighters focus on elemental fire sensitivity. Lin Feng finally understood the reason. in a real battle. How could the enemy give him time to gather elemental fire? Therefore, the elemental fire sensitivity was extremely important. The stronger the elemental fire sensitivity, the faster the elemental fire would gather, and the more powerful the elemental fire would be. In a battle, not to mention 1 second, even 0.1 seconds could determine the outcome of the battle. Looking at the huge blue rock not far away, Lin Feng's right hand suddenly emitted another cluster of flames. In the blink of an eye, it was compressed into a fireball and flew out like a cannonball. Bang! This time, the fire did not light up, and only a crisp sound of collision was heard. The huge blue rock was only slightly shattered. It was not swallowed. As expected, although my elemental fire sensitivity is as high as 5th gear, my current physical fitness is still that of a high-level martial warrior. A defense level of 128 titanium is still unable to break through. 128 titanium, which was equivalent to the basic level of Emperor Wu's body. But it's enough. Lin Feng clenched his right fist, his eyes shining. Once my physical fitness reaches the level of a basic level martial grandmaster, the power of my elemental fire will definitely increase. What I need to do now is to be able to use both hands to attack at the same time. 1 hand and 2 hands, 1 fireball and 2 fireballs. The attack power was far from as simple as 1 + 1. Then, I need to increase the speed of the suppression of the fireballs, become proficient in using the fireball's control and angle. Lin Feng muttered to himself. He was very clear on which path he should take. He was very clear on what kind of training would allow him to increase his strength the most. The faster the suppression of the fireballs, the more proficient he would be in using the fireballs and his combat strength, the more powerful he would be. To Lin Feng, multitasking was never a problem. His sufficiently strong soul allowed him to easily master the suppression of the fireballs with both hands. However, some things could not be achieved overnight. Suppressing the fireballs was a skill, but also a strength. It required constant practice and practice. The speed and power of the fireballs were closely related to the physical fitness and could not be separated. There is only one way to improve: strengthen the body. Chi. In the training room, Lin Feng danced with the leaping dragon spear. His back was drenched in sweat, and his clothes were already soaked. Autumn was very cool, but any martial artist who practiced continuously for 12 hours would end up like Lin Feng. In fact, unless one had unlimited physical strength, how could an ordinary martial artist endure this hellish practice? The leaping dragon spear was like a spirit snake moving. The spear flashed, and the shadow in the air seemed to form a snake's shadow. However, Lin Feng's movements suddenly stopped. Scarlet Snake Flame Dance, so difficult. Lin Feng stopped his movements and exhaled softly. It's too profound. I've been comprehending it for 10 days, but I've only grasped the form. Shaking his head, Lin Feng's expression was a little serious. He picked up the water bottle and gulped it down. He smiled, no wonder. The 3rd level, the 8th style to the 10th style, combined the 3 styles into one. How could it not be difficult? As for my movement technique, ever since I reached the initial mastery level, I haven't had any breakthroughs. The efficiency is too slow. Lin Feng put down the water bottle, and his eyes flickered. Indeed, it was no wonder Lin Feng felt that the efficiency was too slow. In less than 10 days in the ruins of his improvement could be said to be godly. Whether it was the level of his movement technique, combat skills, or the improvement of his body's quality, it was far from what closed-door cultivation could compare to. As expected, actual combat is the fastest way to improve one's strength. However, it's not like I didn't gain anything in the past month. Lin Feng smiled. At the very least, I could be considered a firefighter now. Compared to a fire martial artist, a firefighter was much stronger. If it was a month ago, he could have killed Tam Lang without shedding a drop of blood. It would be as easy as blowing off dust. Now, the first stage of the beast riot should have broken out. Lin Feng nodded. Although he didn't step out of the house, he more or less heard some news from his younger brother and sister. I don't have much time left. In 2 years, The beast riot will reach the third stage, the 7th level. A strong sense of danger enveloped him. Lin Feng only felt as if his heart was being tightly squeezed. The others were still happy and at ease, but he was deeply aware of the cruel reality. Mankind was about to face a great disaster of extinction. I'll go and test my body's quality. Half a month ago, my speed was already close to the standard of a beginner martial grandmaster. Now, Lin Feng's eyes brightened. If my strength is also at the standard of a beginner martial grandmaster, then there's no need for me to go into closed-door cultivation. Enter the wilderness again. Recommend, collect, tip, roar. Chapter 74. Villa, 4th floor training room. Breathe in. Lin Feng calmly stood in front of the strength testing machine, his eyes burning. He clenched his right fist, and in a split second, Lin Feng moved. Like a cheetah pouncing on its prey, Lin Feng's right foot fiercely stepped forward. His body's center of gravity instantly leaned forward, and a terrifying explosive force was completely unleashed. The force was transmitted from his waist to his back, then from his back to his arm, and all of it was concentrated on his right fist. With a rumbling sound, the number on the strength testing machine jumped and paused. 10650. Lin Feng's face revealed a hint of joy. His body's strength exceeded 10,000 jin. This was the standard of a beginner-level martial grandmaster. As expected, this month of hard training wasn't wasted. Slightly smiling, Lin Feng didn't feel too excited, because to him, this was only the beginning. Speed, 255 meters per second. Body strength, 27 titanium. Even the weakest part of strength had broken through the limit, not to mention speed and body strength. The strongest spear move I can use right now is the 7th style of the 3rd floor, Zigzag Lightning. With a 7-fold increase in strength and an attack coefficient of 1. 5 for guns, the maximum attack power can reach 59,107 jin, which is close to 60,000 jin, which is equivalent to 2,000 jun. Lin Feng was also shocked. In the ruins of his strength had only just exceeded the standard of a high-level martial warrior, and his attack power was less than 25,000 jin. But now, in this 1 month's time, his strength had doubled, an extremely terrifying growth rate. Lin Feng didn't know that all of these changes couldn't escape the mysterious book. Even though he had only flipped through it, the increase in his energy and control of primordial fire was far more than that. My speed is at the middle level of a beginner-level martial grandmaster, but my attack power is at the level of a middle-level martial grandmaster. Lin Feng slightly nodded. A commander-level magical beast speed is slower than a martial grandmaster of the same level. In addition, I have the beginner-level proficient level movement technique, which is enough to deal with most middle-level commanders. Commander-level magical beast attack and defense were indeed very strong, but because their body size increased, their speed decreased. As for low-level beast generals, I'm not afraid no matter how many there are. Lin Feng smiled. A month ago, he was already able to easily slaughter a beginner-level general, but now, he could even kill them head-on. With my current strength, I can definitely enter the inner area of the ruins of air. Lin Feng nodded. Let's have dinner and spend some time with my family today. We'll set off tomorrow. Brother, let me introduce you to little one. She's 1 year older than me, and her surname is Sunday. Lin Shui pulled a girl who was about the same height as her. Hello, Linda Gu, little one said softly. Hello. Lin Feng smiled and said, have fun and treat this place as your own home. It was rare to have a guest in the house. As the host, Lin Feng naturally had to be considerate. He had heard from his sister that this girl named Sun Xiaowen was a partner who was planning to open a shop together. The two of them had a very close relationship. Yes, I know, Linda Gu. Little one was very polite and reserved. Lin Feng nodded and looked at Lin Yun, who was not far away. He smiled and walked over. How is it, brother? Are you used to it? Lin Feng sat down. Yes, it's okay. Lin Yun nodded. That's good. Lin Feng smiled. His brother's personality was very similar to his own. He would not easily back down in the face of setbacks and difficulties. Even if he was blind, everything else about him was normal. He was far more intelligent than his peers and had matured much earlier than them. At his request, he entered the first Xiao Yang Academy to study. Although the tuition was expensive, it was just a number to Lin Feng. What he was most worried about was whether his brother could adapt. But now, it seemed that there was no big problem. "Brother." Lin Yun hesitated and said softly, "I've read a lot of books. This beast riot seems a little wrong." Lin Feng's eyes lit up and he smiled. "You're thinking too much. Yun, by the way, there's something I need to tell you." Lin Feng calmly changed the topic. He did not want to let his family know for the time being. It would only cause unnecessary panic and would not be of any help. "Yes." Lin Yun's ears twitched. "I will enter the wilderness again tomorrow." Lin Feng nodded and said, "Take care of the family." "Brother." Lin Yun paused and did not continue. He knew that Lin Feng would not change his mind easily once he had decided on something. Lin Feng smiled. He knew what Lin Yun was worried about. The beast riot had added a lot of danger to the wilderness. But as a warrior, he was dancing on the edge of a knife, walking on the edge of life and death. Not to mention, Lin Feng sighed. Compared to 2 years later, 3 years later would be the real danger. "Now, what's the big deal?" "Brother, I've already transferred 3,000 days of martial coins to your card. This time, I'll be gone for half a month at least and 2 months at most." Looking at Lin Yun's slightly worried expression, Lin Feng could not help but smile. "Don't worry. If there's anything, just look for me." The most common communication device cost 10 days of martial coins. Lin Feng had already given it to his family. "Be careful, brother." Lin Yun pursed his lips and nodded. "Okay." Lin Feng patted Lin Yun's shoulder and looked away. He felt that little one was looking at him. When she saw that he was looking at her, she hurriedly turned her head away. Lin Feng did not mind. At this time, his mother Lin Wanxing clapped her hand with a smile. "It's time to eat." "Coming." Lin Feng replied with a smile and pulled his brother up. It was a warm dinner. In addition, there were guests who talked about interesting things from time to time. The atmosphere was very cheerful. Lin Feng naturally became the target of public criticism. All kinds of embarrassing things about him were exposed one by one. Even he couldn't help but laugh at some of the things he did. After all, who didn't have a past? Who didn't make mistakes? After dinner, little one left. Although Lin Wanxing was worried about Lin Feng's safety, she knew her son's character. She did not persuade him. Instead, she busily went into the kitchen and prepared dry food, water, and other things for Lin Feng. Although it was a small thing, it was a mother's thought. "Father, I'm leaving tomorrow," Lin Feng said softly. During dinner, his father was not around, so Lin Feng specially came in to inform him. "Okay." Lin Xiaotian looked at Lin Feng. In an instant, that familiar feeling came again. Cold sweat seeped out of Lin Feng's forehead. His body felt heavy, and he could not move. However, this time, the uncomfortable feeling disappeared in an instant. Lin Feng also snorted softly. It seemed like not bad. Lin Xiaoyan's eyes flashed with a trace of admiration. Lin Feng suddenly understood. Unknowingly, he had improved a lot. "Thank you, father." Lin Feng smiled and nodded. Lin Xiaoyan's expression didn't change at all. Suddenly, Lin Feng only saw a blur. Suddenly, an inexplicable object appeared in front of his eyes. It flew from his father in a parabola. "What is this?" Lin Feng grabbed the air with his right hand and caught it. What he saw was a light, transparent, shuttle-shaped strange object. It seemed to be weightless in his hand, but there was an inexplicable, strange feeling that he could not describe. Raising his head, Lin Feng could not help but look at his father in confusion. "The cloud shuttle has a defensive function," Lin Xiaotian said indifferently, "and it can be controlled." "Defensive function? Control?" Lin Feng was stunned. He was puzzled. "You can't use soul power yet. For the time being, you can control it with primordial fire." Lin Xiaotian looked at Lin Feng, his eyes shining. "Inject the primordial fire, and you can control it to fly." "Fly?" Lin Feng was stunned. He looked at the object in his hand, which was called a cloud shuttle. He was extremely shocked. "This thing can fly?" At this moment, he did not care how his father knew that he was a fire spirit master. All his attention was attracted by this cloud shuttle. Was this inconspicuous little thing really so magical? Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Father, is this cloud shuttle a legendary treasure? Treasure? Lin Xiaotian shook his head. It's just an ordinary energy tool. Go. Be careful. It's very dangerous outside. Lin Xiaotian said softly and closed his eyes. Lin Feng looked up at his father. Hearing the last sentence, there's a deeper meaning, he thought. He knew that his father was not an ordinary person. It seemed he knew a lot of things that he did not know. Looking at his father's crippled legs, Lin Feng was filled with curiosity. At this moment, he really wanted to know how his father ended up in such a state with his strength. What kind of past did his father have? How many unknown secrets did he have? Yes, father. Lin Feng stepped back and closed the door. In the end, he did not ask, because Lin Feng knew that even if he knew, what could he do? His strength was too weak. In a mansion in Cloud Sun City. Thank you very much, Brother Sunday, Lin Xianglong smiled. It's no big deal. It's good for both of us. The man called Brother Sun had a sly smile on his face. Yes, yes. Lin Xianglong laughed. It's mutually beneficial. Well, everything goes well. Brother Sun picked up the wine pot. Cheers. Don't worry, it will be a success. Lin Xianglong's eyes flashed a trace of viciousness. He picked up the wine cup and drank it. Everyone, don't worry. The mysteries will be revealed one by one. I hope you continue to support Xiao Xiao. Thank you, Carrot Carrot. As usual, please recommend me. Chapter 75. After returning to the training room, Lin Feng couldn't wait to start studying it. Energy tool. Lin Feng carefully touched the cloud shuttle and recalled what his father said. He had never seen it in the Virtual Hunter store. He shook his head and said, "This cloud shuttle has a defensive function and it can fly." Lin Feng's eyes were filled with doubt. How could a palm-sized object fly? Let's give it a try. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. Since he couldn't figure it out, he might as well test it himself and see what was so special about this cloud shuttle. Inject the primordial fire, Lin Feng murmured. His eyes lit up and his heart moved. Suddenly, a strange change occurred. In his palm, he felt a special existence. What? Lin Feng was shocked. Under his control, the cloud shuttle that was originally the size of his palm actually expanded rapidly. Oh my God! Lin Feng opened his eyes wide and looked at it in disbelief. It was a very strange feeling. It was as if the primordial fire had turned into the cloud shuttle, or the two had merged into one, and he could control it at will. As the primordial fire poured in, the cloud shuttle continued to expand. In the blink of an eye, it was 1 meter long and 30 centimeters wide. Controlling the cloud shuttle to float in the air, Lin Feng stepped on it with his right foot. It didn't move at all. He stepped on it with his left foot. The cloud shuttle still didn't have any reaction. It didn't even sway a bit. So strange. Lin Feng sighed. When he was holding the cloud shuttle, he didn't feel any weight at all. When he stepped on the cloud shuttle, he felt as if he was connected to it. It was as if the cloud shuttle was an extension of his legs and connected to his blood vessels. Lin Feng tried to move. Whoosh. The cloud shuttle flew at high speed. Pa! Time paused. Lin Feng's expression was extremely shocked. This speed was extremely terrifying. At that moment, he felt as if his entire body flew out. Looking at the metal wall that was less than 10 meters in front of him, Lin Feng smiled bitterly. If he had stopped just a little later, he would have had intimate contact with the wall. Amazing, truly amazing. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Although it was just a glimpse, and it was impossible to test the true speed of the cloud shuttle at home. But, by a rough estimate, it had already exceeded his maximum speed by nearly 10 times. If I can fully control it and combine it with my fireball technique. Heavens! Lin Feng was pleasantly surprised. This cloud shuttle was simply tailor-made for the firefighter himself. What was his weakest point now? It wasn't strength or physical toughness, but speed. In the ruins of Lin Feng could not even kill the normal low-level beast General Silverlion Civet because of his speed. Zhu Feng, the greedy wolf, Zhu Feng, had also failed because of his speed. Speed had already become a thorn in Lin Feng's side. But what could he do? With the Cloud Shuttle, even killing high-level beast generals would be a piece of cake, right? Lin Feng lightly clicked his tongue. And the most important thing was, if he couldn't win, or if he encountered danger, he could step on the Cloud Shuttle and immediately escape. But what's the defensive function? Lin Feng was slightly confused. He thought for a while, but still couldn't figure out. Soon after, he smiled and said, "Who cares? The ability to control flight is enough. I can attack and escape. What else do I need?" Lin Feng was very satisfied. After entering the ruins of I must practice well. I must master the Cloud Shuttle. Lin Feng thought to himself. Although his father said that the Cloud Shuttle wasn't a treasure, in Lin Feng's eyes, it was better than any treasure. After studying the basic functions of the Cloud Shuttle, Lin Feng quickly arrived at the Virtual Hunter store. If a worker wants to do a good job, he must first sharpen his tools. Spending money is inevitable. After entering the inner area of the ruins of I will earn back the money very quickly. Lin Feng thought to himself. After entering the boorish wasteland, his strength had already increased from intermediate martial warrior to beginner martial grandmaster, 2 whole levels. Many of his equipment had to be upgraded and repurchased. 4 layers of titanium energy suit, 10,000 Tian Wu coins, 50% discount, 5,000 Tian Wu coins. Blazing iron soaring dragon spear, 1,000 Jin, 15,000 Tian Wu coins, 50% discount, 7,500 Tian Wu coins. Swish, swish. After 2 orders, Lin Feng couldn't help but shake his head. No wonder every warrior cries poverty. Indeed, Lin Feng sighed softly. After buying the 9th rank spiritual grass, buying the Lin family village, transferring money to his younger brother, and other miscellaneous expenses, he only had 23,850 Tian Wu coins left in his hunter card. Now, he had spent more than half of it. He only had 11,350 Tian Wu coins left. However, he had to buy it. The titanium energy suit was mainly for defense. 4 layers could increase the defense by 3 times. With his 27 titanium energy suit, he could wear 4 layers of titanium energy suit. That was 62. 1 titanium energy suit. Basically, beginner martial warrior level magical beast couldn't break through his defense. The blazing iron soaring dragon spear was mainly for attack. If a warrior didn't have a suitable weapon, how could he display his attack power? This money couldn't be saved. A blazing iron soaring dragon spear costs 15,000 Tian Wu coins. A blade of the same level costs 12,000 Tian Wu coins. Lin Feng smiled bitterly. He finally discovered the disadvantages of using a spear. It was more expensive. Lin Feng didn't change the rest of the armor. 4-star armor was too expensive, far beyond what he could afford. Lin Feng glanced at the category of fire spiritualist weapon. Very quickly, Lin Feng placed another 2 orders. Bright Fire Ring, effectiveness, 30%. Price, 1,000 Tian Wu coins. Blazing Copper Wrist Guard, effectiveness, 30%. Price, 1,000 Tian Wu coins. Every item was double, just enough to offset the 50% discount. Compared to the titanium energy suit and the blazing iron soaring dragon spear, 2,000 Tian Wu coins was indeed insignificant. However, the increase in strength was obvious. Looking at the remaining 9,350 Tian Wu coins in his hunter card, Lin Feng couldn't help but shake his head lightly. No matter how much his heart ached, he had to use it. Nothing can be done without risking the child. Early the next morning, the goods that Lin Feng had ordered worth 14,500 Tianwu coins were delivered to him. "Mr. Lin Feng, please confirm." The delivery warrior looked at Lin Feng with respect and envy. To be able to buy such a large amount of goods at once, he must be a big shot. 14,500 Tian Wu coins. He had never seen so much money in his life. Okay. Lin Feng quickly pressed his palm down. Beep. A long beep was heard, confirming his identity. Brother, this time, how much is it? Shui asked softly. She had made a fool of herself last time. Lin Feng smiled and said, 14500 Tian Wu coins. After saying that, he picked up the metal box and went straight in. Just the blazing, iron, soaring dragon spear alone weighed over 1,000 caddies. No matter how hard the servants and maids tried, they couldn't move it. The younger sister, Lin Shui was left behind. Her small eyes were wide open, and her mouth was wide open. This is the blazing, iron, soaring dragon spear. Lin Feng took out the long spear that looked like a dancing fire dragon. His eyes were bright. With a slight shake of his right hand, the soaring dragon spear immediately pierced out with a loud boom. Lin Feng held the spear with one hand, and his left hand gently brushed the red spear body. He seemed to feel a strong heat and power, and his eyebrows danced with exultation. Good spear. Sure enough, the spear feels the best when its weight is 1/10 of the body strength. Lin Feng's eyes flickered, and he instantly raised the spear and danced. For a moment, the whole training room was filled with strong air currents, as if a dancing fire dragon. Sometimes it was agile, and sometimes it was full of spear moves. The afterimages in the air kept fading, becoming thicker and thicker, as if forming a fiery red snake out of thin air. Suddenly, boom, an explosion sounded. Holding the soaring dragon spear in his hand, Lin Feng's movement came to an abrupt halt. His eyes were filled with joy as he said, "Wonderful. Performing Red Snake Fiery Dance has improved the feeling. It seems to have the essence of toughness and softness." Sure enough, the previous weapon was not suitable for me, and it did affect my understanding of the spear moves. For a martial artist, weapons were very important. However, not many people could improve their strength as fast as Lin Feng. After wearing the 4 layers of titanium energy suit, the patterns on the front of his body became denser, and Lin Feng felt a slight weight. The impact is not big. Lin Feng murmured to himself softly and moved his body. It was as if he was wearing an ordinary martial suit, and it was very comfortable. Lin Feng's eyes instantly lit up when he glanced at the ring in the metal box and the wrist guard with a metallic luster. Bright fire ring. Blazing copper wrist guard. The ring's function was to increase the power of the primordial fire, and the wrist guard's function was to increase the sensitivity of the primordial fire. Although Lin Feng did not lack these 2 basic abilities, the more he could increase his strength, the better. After all, a 30% increase was not a small number. OM. 2 clusters of flames instantly burned in Lin Feng's hands, and in an instant, they kept expanding. Lin Feng's eyes emitted light. The height of the primordial fire kept rising, and its color was changing rapidly, from vermilion to deep red, and from deep red to dark red, and finally, the dark red color kept deepening, and there was actually a faint orange light. The primordial fire was extinguished in a split second. The power of the primordial fire has already shown orange light. Lin Feng was surprised. He knew that the color of the primordial fire represented its power. Red was the first level, and orange, it was the second level. My sensitivity of the primordial fire should have already reached the 6th level. Lin Feng muttered softly to himself, feeling the scorching aura coming from the blazing copper wrist guard. He seemed to have an even closer connection with the primordial fire in his body, adding a sense of familiarity. Every time he mobilized the primordial fire, it was faster and fiercer. Sensing the primordial fire, the speed of mobilization is 30% faster. The power of the primordial fire has increased, and the intensity of the primordial fire has also increased by 30%. Lin Feng calculated, and his eyes shone brightly. In other words, the power of my fireballs has increased by 169 times in the same amount of time. The extent of the increase was multiplied. Feeling slightly excited, Lin Feng's eyebrows moved. 2 clusters of flames appeared, and in the blink of an eye, They were suppressed into small fireballs. With a wave of his hands, the fireballs instantly shot out rapidly. The extremely intense flames far exceeded Lin Feng's own speed. In an instant, the two small fireballs respectively hit a huge blue rock and a huge purple rock. Boom! Boom! Almost at the same time, a loud sound resounded. Lin Feng looked over and saw that the huge purple rock with a defense as high as 256 titanium had already been blasted into a pile of rubble. As for the huge blue rock with a defense as high as 128 titanium, it had turned into ashes, and not even a bit of it was left. Clenching his fists, Lin Feng's face revealed a satisfied smile, and he lightly exhaled. Wearing the fluorescent compass, Lin Feng put the blazing iron soaring dragon spear back into the scabbard on his back and slowly walked away, heading towards the teleportation array. Entering the boorish desolate again. The battle has begun again. Roar, seeking recommendation, collection, reward carrot carrot. Chapter 76. Endless Wilderness. Ruins of I'm here again. Carrying the soaring dragon spear, Lin Feng appeared in the hunter's camp with a smile. Feeling the fresh air with a hint of blood, Lin Feng felt his blood boil. He couldn't help but clench his right fist. I didn't expect that I would be infatuated with the feeling of battle. With a carefree smile, Lin Feng slowly stepped forward. At this moment, the warriors in the hunter's camp were bustling with activity. It was very different from when he first came here. One word could describe it: depression. As expected, the influence of the beast riot is too great. Lin Feng murmured and walked forward. From the first time he came here, he was nervous and excited. Until now, he didn't have any special feelings. The fewer people, the better, Lin Feng thought inwardly. This way, I can hunt more demon beasts, and the effect of actual combat training will be better. Even, I can also test the strength of the firefighter and see how strong it is. Lin Feng smiled and instantly disappeared among the ruins of Yer. 2 hours later, the teleportation array in the hunter's camp flashed with white light, and a black skinny figure appeared. The cold aura was bone-chilling. Around the skinny man, all the warriors retreated 3 feet away with pale faces and looked at this mysterious person in horror. This kind of terrifying killing aura could only be obtained after countless life and death experiences. Lord Black Snake, a man in cotton clothes, came forward from the crowd. What's the situation? Black Snake's expression was calm as he asked coldly. The prey left for about 2 hours. The man in cotton clothes bowed and said, Also, I only found the prey alone. One person? Black Snake smiled indifferently. How bold. Lord, the prey was wearing a 4-layered titanium energy suit and had the soaring dragon spear and the scabbard on his back. The man in cotton clothes said slowly, The information is wrong. The prey's strength should be that of a beginner martial grandmaster, not an advanced martial warrior. Understood. You may leave. Black Snake's expression didn't change. For ordinary warriors, it was very difficult to advance from advanced martial warrior to beginner martial grandmaster. But for a fire spirit master, it was too simple. Sure enough, the prey must be a fire spirit master, as the information says. The corner of the black snake's mouth curled into a sneer. Not only did he not feel troubled, but he was also much more relaxed. To a mid-level Emperor Wu, whether his opponent was a high-level martial warrior or a beginner-level martial grandmaster, there was no difference. I have to be careful. I can only make a move after I confirm that there are no mistakes. Black Snake muttered to himself. He thought of Scar's death and could not understand why. The prey is likely to be protected by experts. I must not act rashly. After all, my strength is only slightly stronger than Scar's. Black Snake understood that since the mysterious expert was able to kill Scar, killing him would be a piece of cake. However, compared to Scar, he had his own advantages. Be calm and cautious. The name Black Snake was not just for show. Lin Feng sprinted across the plains of like a bolt of lightning. For Lin Feng, a speed of 150 meters per second was only 60% of his strength. Other warriors might be stingy with their stamina, but for Lin Feng, he did not care. There should be no one here. Lin Feng suddenly stopped and looked around. After sprinting continuously for 2 hours, the current him had already deviated far from his original direction. In this desolate wilderness, apart from a few beginner-level bee soldiers, there was not a single person within a 10-li radius. Let's give it a try. Lin Feng's face was filled with excitement. He placed his right hand on his chest. In a split second, a scorching feeling ignited in the air. In front of Lin Feng, the cloud shuttle appeared in the blink of an eye. With a light leap, Lin Feng jumped onto the cloud shuttle. His body was as light as a feather. With a thought, whoosh, the wind whistled in his ears. Stepping on the cloud shuttle, Lin Feng felt as if he had become one with it. He felt as if he was flying in the sky. The scenery in front of his eyes constantly changed. His speed was at least 1,000 meters per second. The roars of beast soldiers could be heard from time to time, but they quickly disappeared. Too fast. Lin Feng's eyebrows danced. He simply couldn't believe his eyes at such a speed. I can still increase my speed. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Primordial fire immediately poured out. The cloud shuttle under his feet seemed to have increased in size. Its flying speed was as if he was riding a moving car. It continued to increase in speed and increase in speed. 1,000, 2,000, Lin Feng himself did not know. Only when his vision became hazy did he slowly slow down. Oh my God, too powerful. My strength is only that of a beginner-level martial grandmaster. But when using the cloud shuttle, my speed exceeds that of a beginner-level Emperor Wu. Lin Feng shook his head. He could not believe it. Suddenly, his eyes flickered. Lin Feng could not help but smile. I am so stupid. I forgot that the cloud shuttle is driven by primordial fire. Primordial fire was 3 levels higher than a martial artist's strength. He was a beginner-level martial grandmaster. His primordial fire was equivalent to the strength of a beginner-level Emperor Wu. To be able to control the cloud shuttle at such a speed, it was not rare. There's only one flaw. It consumes too much primordial fire. Lin Feng chuckled. If it was a month ago, my energy would have been squeezed dry in a short while. Vulture looked at Lame Li and nodded. Follow the usual plan. Okay, Captain, Lame Li replied. Lin Xianglong nodded with a smile. The captain and vice-captain had even successfully killed an intermediate martial grandmaster. As long as the two of them were willing to help with their methods and cooperation, they could easily kill Lin Feng. It would be a piece of cake. We're here. So fast. Holding the leaping dragon spear, Lin Feng smiled. I still remember the first time I came here. It took me 8 hours. Now, it doesn't even take an hour. Lin Feng was quite satisfied with the cloud shuttle. It was an extremely long journey, but it didn't take much time. If it wasn't for the fact that he had to descend due to exhaustion, he could have saved a lot of time. Last time, the rocket squad came together, but this time, it's just me. Lin Feng's eyes brightened. To be honest, he still preferred to act alone. Although it might be easier to hunt with the help of the rocket squad, but he would have more freedom if he was alone. This is the entrance to the ruins of Air. Lin Feng glanced at the fluorescent compass. The ruins of Air was huge, but there were only 4 entrances: the east, south, west, and north. It was similar to a city gate. The closest one to the hunter's camp was the south gate. However, because it was barren and abandoned, the entrance was dozens of times bigger than before. Lin Feng opened the map and couldn't help but let out a soft cry. As far as he could see, at the center of the inner area, the fiery red mark was still very eye-catching. However, at a place far away from the outer area, a small yellow dot had actually appeared. This was the location the rocket squad had set when they entered the ruins of Air. The dots of different colors represented different members. I didn't expect Wang Hao to be here as well. Lin Feng smiled gently. However, he didn't feel suspicious. After all, the warrior squad was just a formality. It wasn't forced or fixed. Wang Hao could totally join other warrior squads to hunt and adventure. Lin Feng turned off the fluorescent compass. Just as he was about to explore the area, suddenly, however, a faintly discernible voice sounded in his ears. "Happy New Year, my dear readers. Please continue to recommend me." Chapter 77. His figure rose and fell a few times, and soon, Lin Feng arrived at the source of the sound. What he saw was a man with a hooked nose covered in blood. He was frantically dodging the attacks of a magical beast and was surrounded by danger. The magical beast's body was silver, and it had a small body. It had pointed ears, but it had frighteningly sharp claws and teeth. It was a low-level beast general, Silver Lion Raccoon. It was obvious that what he had heard was the voice of the hooked-nosed man asking for help. "What does it have to do with me?" After watching for 2 seconds, Lin Feng immediately turned and left. He had never met the hooked-nosed man before, so why should he get involved in this mess? He was not a saint, so he should leave this kind of thing to others. However, "Junior Marshal Brother, save me." A sharp voice suddenly sounded, and Lin Feng suddenly heard a scream. Turning his head, he saw that in the blink of an eye, the hooked-nosed man was at a disadvantage, and his left arm was dripping with blood. The Silver Lion Raccoon's attacks came wave after wave, and with its impressive speed and agility, it had completely gained the upper hand. Frowning slightly, Lin Feng stared and suddenly caught a glimpse of the familiar logo on the hooked-nosed man's clothes. "Is it a senior martial brother from the Firmament martial sect?" Lin Feng softly said. "To save or not to save?" Lin Feng did not hesitate, and his body suddenly dashed out like lightning, bringing with it a whistling sound. Since they were from the same sect, and the hooked-nosed man was desperately asking for help, he would not be so cold-blooded. The most important thing was, to him, killing the Silver Lion Raccoon was as easy as lifting a finger. It was too easy. "Ka-ka!" The Silver Lion Raccoon discovered Lin Feng and screamed. At this time, the hooked-nosed man's body strangely slowed down, and with a shift, he actually escaped the attack range of the Silver Lion Raccoon. His movements were very small, but as delicate as dust. He had completely grasped the instincts of a magical beast. In an instant, the silver liger changed its target. Lin Feng looked indifferently at the Silver Lion Raccoon. This little thing in front of him had given him a great deal of trouble a month ago. On that day, the Silver Lion Raccoon's speed was so fast that he was utterly unable to attack it. Not to mention executing the spear move fleeting light, it was even difficult for him to execute an ordinary stab. And that was a silver lion fox whose leg had been shot. But now Lin Feng dodged lightly. In an instant, the explosive power of his speed increased to the maximum. The Silver Lion Raccoon's body seemed to have stopped for a moment. Clang! The blazing iron soaring dragon spear was unsheathed, and a red light flickered. Pa-bang! Blood splattered everywhere, and the Silver Lion Raccoon was lying in a pool of blood. Its head was separated from its body. Instant kill. Less than 2 meters behind Lin Feng, the hook-nosed man held the blazing azure edge sword in his hand. His right hand gradually drooped down, his eyes constantly changing. Originally, he wanted to take advantage of the gap in the battle between Lin Feng and the Silver Lion Raccoon to launch a sneak attack. However, he didn't expect that the Silver Lion Raccoon would be killed by Lin Feng. Such tyrannical strength. The hook-nosed man frowned slightly as he glanced at Lin Feng's blazing iron soaring dragon spear. A beginner martial grandmaster. No wonder he has such speed. The hook-nosed man pondered in his heart and cursed. Damn it, Along is dishonest. How can this little guy be a senior martial warrior? No wonder he dared to come to the ruins of her alone. At this moment, the hook-nosed man's doubts disappeared. He raised his left hand slightly, extended 2 fingers, and immediately put them down. To him, killing a beginner martial grandmaster was just like killing a senior martial warrior. It was just slightly more troublesome. "Thank you, junior martial brother," the hook-nosed man said weakly with gratitude. "No problem." Lin Feng turned around and nodded. He glanced at the wound on the hook-nosed man's left arm and said, Senior martial brother, treat it first. It's fine. The hook-nosed man smiled tiredly and said, this is just a superficial wound. Lin Feng smiled and was about to say something when suddenly his heart tightened and his body felt a bone-chilling coldness for no reason. Lin Feng's expression suddenly changed. This feeling was familiar. It's an arrow. Lin Feng's eyes immediately lit up and his heart was greatly shocked. Lin Feng quickly reacted and turned around. The scene from that day suddenly appeared in his mind. Once that golden arrow almost took his life. Sure enough, it was it again. However, the golden arrow this time seemed to be a little slower. Who is it? Shooting at my back? Lin Feng moved his left leg and instantly dodged the arrow. The golden arrow flew by with an ear-piercing sound and missed by a few millimeters. However, a few millimeters was equivalent to 1,000 miles. Lin Feng was secretly thinking. Suddenly, a chill ran down his spine and Lin Feng's hair stood on end. A suffocating, murderous aura came from behind him like a demon beast opening its bloody mouth. At this moment, how could Lin Feng not understand? This was a trap. Die. The hook-nosed man, bald eagle, had a cold expression. The blazing azure sword in his hand pierced towards Lin Feng's back. This was a double trap. Previously, he had killed an intermediate martial grandmaster with his own hands. At the moment of life and death, Lin Feng's nerves were completely taut. His blood seemed to have frozen at that moment. Even his breathing stopped. It was as if his entire body was frozen in that moment. Suddenly, rows of words appeared in his mind. When born, it is called essence. When two essences fight, it is called spirit. For a primordial spirit, the will in the heart is lively and unmoving. It was like a curse that had been imprinted in his mind. Every single word was clearly visible. The mysterious book emitted a dazzling light. Every word seemed to come alive, beating with a frequency and rhythm. It had an indescribable magical power. In his mind, everything in the surroundings gathered. Every inch of land, every part of the environment entered his eyes. Lin Feng could even see the hook-nosed man's cold and ferocious face and the blazing azure sword piercing towards his heart from behind. At this moment, Lin Feng felt as if he had become illusory and blurry. Am I going to die? How can this be? How can I die here? The doubts in his heart were instantly destroyed by Lin Feng's willpower. The incomparable obsession in his heart made Lin Feng grit his teeth. Suddenly, something seemed to explode in his mind. A strange warm current flowed through his body. In an instant, his blood began to flow again. His internal organs recovered their functions. Lin Feng felt as if there was a strong electric current in his brain, and he felt an excruciating pain. He tried his best to endure the pain and control the power to move to his heart. I cannot die, Lin Feng shouted with all his might. The hook-nosed man, bald eagle, smiled coldly. The blazing azure sword in his hand pierced into Lin Feng's back. The powerful force directly destroyed the 4 layers of the titanium energy suit. He could even feel that the sword was about to pierce Lin Feng's back. Suddenly, his body shook. An extremely terrifying and powerful force wrapped around him. His body seemed to have sunk into a swamp. The blazing azure sword in his hand became incomparably heavy. What's going on? Bald Eagle's expression changed. The blazing azure sword could no longer pierce even an inch further. Just a little bit more, just a little bit more. Vulture screamed in his heart. However, just a little bit more would mean failure. Turning around like a spinning top, Lin Feng endured the pain in his mind. The soaring dragon spear in his right hand swung in a semicircle. It was as light as a butterfly, but it sparkled with cold light. A strong wind blew, and the red light emitted a violent roar. Fourth style, butterfly dance. Boom! There was an explosion. Bald Eagle's neck was a mess of flesh and blood. His eyes were filled with shock and horror. He opened his mouth, but couldn't make a sound. Bang! He fell to the ground. Even in death, Bald Eagle didn't understand how he died. He didn't understand. In the distance, Cripple Lee, the Zhou brothers, and Lin Xianglong of the Bald Eagle Squad were already dumbfounded. Who would have thought that the tyrannical bald eagle would die just like that? No, impossible. How can Lin Feng be so strong? Lin Xianglong looked at the silhouette holding the long spear in the distance and felt a trace of fear in his heart. In less than 2 months, Lin Feng had gone from being on par with him to being able to kill Condor, who was close to being a mid-level martial grandmaster. With Condor's strength, killing him would be as easy as squashing an ant. The most unbelievable thing was that Lin Feng actually dodged Cripple Li's arrow and Bald Eagle's sneak attack. Lin Xianglong's heart trembled, and he couldn't calm down for a long time. Monster! The Zhou brothers trembled violently. Cripple Li also came back to his senses. The three of them glared at Lin Xianglong. It was all his fault. Retreat. Cripple Li clenched his teeth and waved his hand. The longer they stayed, the more danger they would be in. He understood this principle very well. Lin Xianglong didn't have the slightest bit of autonomy. He nodded frantically and was about to retreat when he suddenly realized there was a flash of light in the distance. Oh no! Lin Xianglong was scared out of his wits and ran. You want to run? Lin Feng's eyes revealed a trace of coldness. Looking at the direction where the golden arrow was shot, he clearly knew that there was more than one enemy. Who is so ruthless to want to take my life? Lin Feng clenched his teeth. Just now he had almost died. If it wasn't for the inexplicable explosion and change in his mind and the strange divine power, he wouldn't be standing here unscathed. The pain in his mind had lessened a lot. Everything around him could be seen clearly. It was as if there was a pair of eyes in the sky. Cloud shuttle. Lin Feng moved casually and the primordial fire poured out. A faint transparent light suddenly appeared. Lin Feng jumped lightly. In an instant, it was like a gust of wind passing by. If it was before, he could only watch the enemy leave. But now, all of you must die. Lin Feng's murderous intent was fully revealed. The speed of the cloud shuttle completely exploded. Please recommend. Chapter 78. Swoosh. Like a shooting star, it flew past. Lin Feng didn't go as fast as he could. Instead, he kept it at 3 times his normal speed. This speed was something that he could completely handle with his current strength, a speed that he could control freely. It's him. In an instant, Lin Feng found his first target, a cripple. The black bow on his back and the arrow at his waist completely exposed his identity. 4 figures appeared in his mind like a map. This inconspicuous cripple left the deepest impression on him, because he drew the bow from behind. Damn it! Lin Feng gritted his teeth. Suddenly, Brother Ox's miserable state appeared in his mind. Lin Feng's hatred for the Silver Wolf seemed to have been transferred to Cripple Li. Stepping on the cloud shuttle, Lin Feng's right hand instantly emitted a ferocious flame. In an instant, it turned into a small fireball. The first one, Lin Feng's killing intent, was fully revealed. Cripple Li was second only to Bald Eagle in the Vulture Squad. However, in terms of speed, he was the slowest in the squad. He wasn't even as fast as Lin Xianglong, because he was really a cripple. Running for his life, Cripple Li used up all his strength. He didn't even have time to look behind him. Suddenly, a scorching hot feeling came over him. Cripple Li's face instantly turned pale. Boom! The fireball exploded. An incomparably violent explosion sounded, and a horrifying sound reverberated in the ruins. The Zhou brothers and Lin Xianglong all turned around to look. They were so scared that their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. They saw Cripple Li's horrified face not far away. In an instant, they were drowned by an intense flame. Heavens! What kind of attack is this? Monster! The Zhou brothers ran like crazy. It was as if they wanted to get rid of the fear and terror in their hearts. Do you think you can escape? Flying on the cloud shuttle, Lin Feng's eyes sparkled. He looked at the 2 burly men like a cat catching a mouse. Their muscular bodies gave people a strong visual shock. However, at this moment, they were like 2 wild boars, clumsy and slow. Go to hell. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. 2 clusters of flames appeared in his hands in the blink of an eye, condensing into 2 fireballs of the same size. In an instant, chi. At the same time, the 2 fireballs flew in different directions at the same speed. After countless training sessions, Lin Feng was able to multitask and control the 2 fireballs perfectly. Boom! Rumble. The Zhou brothers didn't even have the chance to scream before they were burned to ashes. Not even their bones were left. How could 2 beginner martial grandmasters withstand the primordial fire that possessed the strength of a beginner Emperor Wu? In the blink of an eye, he had killed 3 people. Lin Feng's face didn't have the slightest bit of sympathy, like a calm lake. They all deserved to die. Although the 2 burly men did not attack him, it did not mean that he would let them go. Since they were here, it meant that they had the intention to kill him. As for whether or not they made a move, was that important? If you cut the grass without removing the roots, there would be no end to the trouble. This incident made Lin Feng understand even more clearly that benevolence was a sin. I almost died because of mercy. Lin Feng gritted his teeth and kept saying to himself, this kind of mistake could not be repeated. There's still one more. Lin Feng looked at the back of a figure not far away and felt a sense of familiarity. Don't even think about escaping. The cloud shuttle suddenly sped up. Lin Feng was like a shooting star streaking across the sky. At this moment, Lin Xianglong was like a bird startled by the mere twang of a bough. The deaths of Condor and Lame Li were deeply imprinted in his mind, especially Lame Li, who was engulfed by an inexplicable flame. God, what kind of power is that? Lin Xianglong was extremely shocked. He had just heard the same 2 explosions, but Lin Xianglong didn't even dare to look back. He wished that he had 2 more legs so that he could run faster. This sound was too familiar. That was how Lame Li died. It was obvious that the Zhou brothers could not escape their fate either. This is too scary. Lin Feng. Who is he? And that mysterious flame, fire. Lin Xianglong's eyes widened. It can't be. Fire Spirit Master. Lin Xianglong was shocked. Suddenly, he glanced ahead and vaguely caught a glimpse of a figure standing indifferently. It was the person who was quietly waiting for him. Lin Feng. Lin Xianglong was so scared that his eyes almost popped out. He could not understand why Lin Feng would mysteriously appear in front of him. It's really you, clan leader. Lin Feng's lips curled up slightly. Looking at the familiar face in front of him, scenes of the past suddenly appeared in his mind. Lin Feng remembered the days in the Lin family village, his childhood, and his past. Once, the man in front of him was the person he respected the most, the goal he worked hard for, the role model. But now, Lin Feng, it's not my fault. Lin Xianglong's face was full of flattery, but his expression was awkward. Is it? Lin Feng looked at Lin Xianglong indifferently. In an instant, the memories in his mind shattered like a broken vase. The person in front of him was no longer the high and mighty clan leader who was respected and revered by the people. It's them. They got greedy when they saw you. I tried to persuade them. Lin Xianglong kept defending himself. The voice in his ear was hazy. Lin Feng looked at Lin Xianglong with a trace of pity. Right now, he was just a lowly, pitiful worm. I beg you, Lin Feng, let me live. Seeing that Lin Feng was indifferent, Lin Xianglong hurriedly begged for mercy. Although you were not born in the Lin family village, you grew up in the Lin family village. You and I have fate. The latter words fell into Lin Feng's ears, leaving only a hollow sound. Lin Feng was stunned. I was not born in the Lin family village. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Lin Feng shook his head, his face full of shock, because he knew that his mother, Lin Wanqing, had never left the Lin family village. If he was not born in the Lin family village, then question marks appeared in his mind. Lin Feng's eyes suddenly became sharp, staring straight at Lin Xianglong. A sharp and cold light flashed in his pitch-black eyes, and a mysterious power in his mind suddenly shot out. Speak, what do you know? Lin Feng shouted coldly. Lin Xianglong was instantly stunned. Looking into those pitch-black eyes, He felt as if he had sunk into a deep swamp. So scary. Cold sweat broke out on Lin Xianglong's forehead, and he trembled. He opened his mouth, wanting to speak, but found that his body seemed to be out of his control. His eyes were filled with fear, and he felt that Lin Feng was as scary as a demon. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Lin Xianglong's body twitched. Lin Feng's expression changed in an instant, but he also reacted abruptly. Just now, what happened? Lin Feng quickly closed his eyes and retracted the mysterious power. Huff, huff. Lin Xianglong gasped for breath, his back soaked with sweat. Speak about me, about my parents. How much do you know? Lin Feng said in a low voice. Lin Xianglong lowered his head in fear, sneaking glances at Lin Feng, not daring to look directly at him. If I tell you, will you let me go? Yes. Lin Feng did not hesitate. Okay, I believe you. Lin Xianglong quickly nodded, as if he was afraid that Lin Feng would go back on his word, but he had no choice. That year, the chief was my father. I don't know how your father came to the Lin family village. I only know that your mother found him. At that time, his legs were broken, his body was covered in blood, and he was barely breathing. Father came to the Lin family village with serious injuries. Lin Feng was shocked, but he had never mentioned it to his family. You and your brother appeared together with your father. Lin Xianglong carefully added. What else? Lin Feng's breathing quickened. If what Lin Xianglong said was true, the situation would become extremely terrifying. Father and mother met after he and his brother were born. No more. Lin Xianglong's face was filled with fear, and he said, I only know this much. Lin Feng's expression kept changing. There must be a huge secret behind his father, one that he did not know. Lin Feng involuntarily clenched his fists as he vaguely understood. He could only blame himself for not being strong enough to help his father. Looking up at Lin Xianglong, Lin Feng let out a long breath. Chief, I don't blame you. Lin Xianglong was stunned. I killed Lin Nanhu. So, you hate me, I understand. Lin Feng nodded calmly. It will be the same for anyone else. The corners of Lin Xianglong's mouth twitched, and he forced a smile. No, Lin Feng, I don't hate you really. Taking a step back, Lin Xianglong's expression kept changing. With his experience and intuition, he could vaguely smell danger. But Lin Feng paused, and a fierce light flashed in his eyes. It doesn't mean that I will accept it. While speaking, Lin Feng's right hand suddenly shot out a flame, and Lin Xianglong was instantly scared out of his wits. Looking at it closely, it was even more terrifying, and it made people's hair stand on end. Lin Feng, you promised to let me go just now? Let you go. Lin Feng smiled indifferently, and the flame in his right hand had already condensed into a fireball, and the flame shot out in all directions. Can you believe the words of the enemy, Chief? In an instant, Lin Feng's eyes flashed with a cold light. Then you are too naive. Before he finished speaking, the fireball had already shot out. Lin Xianglong was scared out of his wits, and with his speed, it was impossible for him to dodge it even if he wanted to. Die, Lin Feng murmured. In an instant, boom! With a violent explosion, the flames spread, and a scorching heat, completely engulfing Lin Xianglong. In the end, I am still too merciful. Looking at Lin Xianglong, who had already turned into dust, Lin Feng smiled. From the moment I killed Lin Nanhu, I should have known that between you and me, only one of us can live. If only I was a little more decisive. Lin Feng sighed softly. If only he had killed Lin Xianglong earlier, how would he be in danger today? Tolerating and nurturing a villain will only invite disaster upon oneself. To paraphrase a certain student's words, the story of the father and son in the novice village is over. Roar twice, Xiao Xiao continues to roll on the ground, begging for recommendation votes. Chapter 79. There seemed to be a powerful energy wave just now. Galloping in the outer region of the ruins of the black snake's expression was cold and arrogant, his eyes shining. As strong as he was very sensitive to the energy around him. An energy wave that exceeds the level of Emperor Wu. It must be prey. The black snake nodded slightly, his cold eyes emitting a faint murderous intent. Among the 5 elemental celestial spirit masters, I like fire spirit masters the most. Little guy, be obedient and give me the elemental fire seed. Only a powerhouse like me, the black serpent, can truly unleash the potential and might of such a prideful talent. Sinister laughter came from the ruins of air, echoing constantly, causing the surrounding magical beasts to be on guard, but they could not find any suspicious traces. In the ruins of air, a fierce battle was taking place. On one side, there is a group of dozens of furious magical beasts, while on the other side, there is only a single figure. The contrast was extremely large. It was a group of magical beasts led by a low-level beast general, the Golden Wild Bull. The roars of the magical beasts soared into the sky, as if to show off to Lin Feng. The Golden Wild Bull rushed at the front, followed by the magical beasts. Lin Feng, with the leaping dragon spear in his hand, was calm and leisurely. His expression did not change at all. A month ago, he was already able to kill the Golden Wild Bull alone. Now, 500 meters, 200 meters, 50 meters. Lin Feng clearly saw the cold eyes of the Golden Wild Bull, heard the heavy breathing, and a faint smile appeared on his lips. Suddenly, Lin Feng's eyes suddenly lit up, emitting a beam of terrifying light. His pitch-black pupils seemed to have enlarged. Instantly, the Golden Wild Bull seemed to be struck by lightning. Its extreme speed gradually slowed down. Its expression was dull, as if it was doing an unconscious action. The surrounding soldier-level magical beasts immediately overtook it and attacked Lin Feng. Antelope beast, blazing bull, silver-clawed blue-eyed cat. The strong smell of beasts filled the air, and the roars completely engulfed Lin Feng. Lin Feng moved. The soaring dragon spear in his hand danced gracefully in the air like a butterfly, bringing with it a gust of wind. Red spear's shadows crept out. Chi! 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 With a flash of cold light, Lin Feng took a light step forward and instantly killed 3 high-rank beast soldiers. Staring straight at the Golden Wild Bull, Lin Feng suddenly stomped on the ground with his right foot. Like a shooting star at dawn, the soaring dragon spear in his hand twirled and tore, emitting a soft cry. Swish! A sharp sound rang out. The leaping dragon spear pierced the golden bison's body without any resistance. It was as though he had pierced through a piece of paper. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly as he moved his right arm. With a boom, the leaping dragon spear's last bit of energy burst out. The powerful vibration caused the Golden Wild Bull's body to explode, sending blood and flesh flying everywhere. Immediately, those elementary and intermediate bee soldiers with weaker body defense wailed in agony as they were affected. Chi! 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 Lin Feng did not stop at all. Holding the soaring dragon spear in one hand, he charged into the group of beasts and simply sprinted back and forth. Corpses littered the field. The demonic beasts were all dead. What kind of power is this? Lin Feng stood in the same place, frowning as he pondered. Ever since he narrowly escaped death from the sneak attack, he felt as though something in his brain had cracked, and a mysterious power seemed to have been awakened. He could not figure it out. This power is very strong. No, it's far stronger than I imagined. Lin Feng nodded his head vigorously. One glance was enough to make Lin Xianglong, an elementary martial grandmaster, panic. One glance was enough to make the elementary Golden Wild Bull sluggish. This feeling, Lin Feng's eyes suddenly shook. Yes, it was exactly the same as when his father looked at him. Could it be that the mysterious book gave me a new power? Lin Feng softly muttered. Slowly shaking his head, Lin Feng pondered as he left. Leaving behind a messy pool of blood, Lin Feng did not dissect the Golden Wild Bull. To him, the value of an elementary beast general was too low. 2 hours later, Black Snake looked coldly at the pool of blood. His sharp eyes immediately caught a glimpse of the Golden Wild Bull. You didn't even take the bull's horns? Black Snake smiled indifferently, Sure enough, a fire spirit master is a fire spirit master. This small amount of money is nothing in his eyes. Back then, I didn't even let go of the materials from the high-level beast soldiers. Every penny I could earn was a penny. Indeed, it was infuriating to compare oneself to others. That energy aura disappeared here. Black Snake closed his eyes, faintly sensing his surroundings, and opened them in a flash. I wonder, which direction did the prey go? Black Snake glanced at his left hand. There was only a faint yellow dot representing himself, but he could not see any other signals. He was not disappointed. There's plenty of time. I'll play with you slowly. The Black Snake faintly smiled before disappearing. This is the legendary inner area, Lin Feng whispered. Looking up, it was a real city-like existence. The metal ruins were extremely conspicuous. Broken towers could be seen everywhere, standing like sharp cones, but they were dilapidated and had long been eroded by time. However, just by looking at their appearance, one could tell how glorious and illustrious they used to be. It gave people a feeling of majesty. Firmament City was already quite good, but in Lin Feng's view, it was far inferior to these ruins. The ruins of Air, Lin Feng sighed softly. After returning to Firmament City, he had flipped through relevant books. However, the description of the ruins of Air was no more than that. It was almost the same as what Qin Ro had told him. It was estimated that there had been a prehistoric civilization here, but there was no accurate answer as to how it was destroyed and disappeared. There were different opinions. Perhaps this place was really destroyed because of the beast riot. Lin Feng muttered. Among the various theories, this theory was the most agreed upon. 2 years later, 3 years later, Lin Feng revealed a touch of sadness and sighed softly. Sky Martial Continent will face the same result. According to Zi Yao, in the third stage of the beast riot, the possibility of humans being able to resist is only 50%. And in the final stage, humans, there is no hope of survival. The fox grieves for the rabbit's death. Lin Feng clenched his fist. No matter what, I will do my best to protect my family. Determination flashed across Lin Feng's eyes as he headed deeper into the forest. The first intermediate level beast general. Lin Feng's eyes shone. In his sight, not far away, there was a huge deer-type beast lazily resting. It had black and white stripes for thick and powerful limbs, sharp spikes on its back, and the antlers on its head were even more intricate. Dozens of spikes were in a mess, like a flower. Thorny flower deer, average defense, average speed, average attack. The information appeared in Lin Feng's mind. This was only the most common intermediate level beast general. Let's try again. Lin Feng tightened his grip on the leaping dragon spear and rushed towards the thorny flower deer in a split second. Wah! The thorny flower deer fiercely stood up straight, its red eyes staring straight at Lin Feng as it roared again and again. In a split second, the surrounding beasts launched a fierce attack on Lin Feng. Silver-eyed mountain ape, silver lion raccoon. There were already 3 low-level beast generals and countless high-level beast soldiers. As expected, the inner area is more interesting. Lin Feng smiled indifferently. His body suddenly exploded with a powerful force. Facing the waves of attacks from the beasts, the leaping dragon spear was like a dancing dragon, displaying its might. Huh, huh. Lin Feng's expression was calm as he swung the spear. Blood splattered everywhere, and from time to time, the beast's painful roars could be heard. Lin Feng was like a god of death, entering and exiting. Every time he swung the leaping dragon spear, there would be blood and at least one corpse. Very quickly, many demonic beasts were wiped out. Lin Feng warmed up his arms and looked at the thorny flower deer that had no followers. Aha! The thorny flower deer angrily roared. The spikes on its head slowly stood up like a blooming flower. Its red eyes emitted a sharp light. Lin Feng smiled slightly. He knew that this meant that the thorny flower deer was angry and was ready to attack. Come! Holding the spear with one hand, Lin Feng said softly. The roar pierced through the clouds. In a split second, Lin Feng and the thorny flower deer moved at almost the same time, closing the distance of 100 meters in the blink of an eye. Wah! Lin Feng's eyes shone, his black pupils emitting an incomparably sharp light. Dang! The thorny flower deer seemed to have been hit by a heavy hammer. Its body staggered and almost fell down. And at this moment, Lin Feng's spear arrived. The third style flash of flowing light. The leaping dragon spear turned into an afterimage, falling like a meteor. Bang! With a violent tremor, the thorny flower deer fell into a pool of blood without even a howl. However, Lin Feng was stunned. This is energy, so this power is the application of energy. Lin Feng was shocked, but he finally understood. Just now, he felt a large amount of energy drain. So, energy can not only be used to control the primordial fire, it can also be used independently. However, it consumes too much energy to deal with a medium-level beast general. Lin Feng shook his head. He couldn't use it too often. After all, the recovery of energy was very slow. However, even so, it was still very terrifying. One must know that he was only a beginner martial grandmaster, but he was able to stun the thorny flower deer for a split second. There was no need to doubt the usefulness of this split second in battle. If he was able to stun an intermediate martial grandmaster for a split second, what would happen? What a terrifying power. Lin Feng's heart trembled. If he had been able to stun the thorny flower deer for a split second when he was fighting with Tan Lang, one spear would have been able to kill him. Please recommend. Chapter 80. Night fell. Lin Feng sat alone in the ruins, eating dry rations to fill his stomach. The inner area is indeed densely populated with magical beasts. Lin Feng nodded and murmured, "In the past, we had to look for magical beasts in the outer area. But here, the magical beasts came to us themselves." In a short 4 hours, he had killed more than 2 digits of mid-level generals. As for low-level generals, they were countless. The materials on each mid-level general cost at least 1,000 sky martial coins. Lin Feng calculated in his heart, 12 mid-level generals. That's an average of 2,000 Tian Wu coins per head. That's 24,000 Tian Wu coins. In such a short time, I earned it all back. Lin Feng shook his head in astonishment. He didn't dare to believe it. Actually, earning money isn't that hard. Lin Feng smiled. Indeed, killing those of a higher level, unlimited stamina, and a life-saving move, to Lin Feng, earning money wasn't difficult at all. It's a pity that I didn't encounter any high-level generals. Lin Feng's eyes flashed with a burning light. A high-level general costs at least 10,000 sky martial coins. High-level generals cost tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands. If I could kill them, that would be awesome. No one would complain about having too much money. This was especially true for people like Lin Feng, who had experienced poverty before and knew the importance of money. Opening the fluorescent compass, he heard a familiar beep. Lin Feng looked at it and couldn't help but smile. He dialed it. Beep! A long sound rang out. "Soon, brother." On the other side of the communicator, his sister's voice was filled with joy. "Yes, Shuai-er. How are father, mother, and Ian?" Lin Feng smiled. Although he could tell from his sister's voice, this kind of question had already become a habit. "They're all very good," Shuai said happily. "Brother, you have to be careful." "All right, brother, let me tell you a piece of good news. Little one and I have already signed the contract for the shop. When you come back, I'll definitely give you a big surprise." "Okay." Lin Feng smiled and nodded. "Remember to look for me if you need anything, okay?" When it came to business, he didn't know anything about it. If he came up with random ideas, it would be bad for him. "I know you're so long-winded," Shuai said coquettishly. After chatting with his family for a while, Lin Feng ended the call. Although just a few words, Lin Feng felt warm inside. This kind of warmth could not be bought with money. No matter what happened, they were his family. This was something that would not change no matter what. "I have to work hard. At the very least, I still have 2 years." Lin Feng clenched his fists. After ending the call, Lin Feng looked at the map of the ruins of Error. He was still at the edge of the inner layer, and there was still a long way to go before he reached the center. Lin Feng's gaze fell on the fiery red logo in the center, and a strong sense of curiosity rose in his heart. What is this? Lin Feng pondered. This fluorescent compass seemed to have some secrets that no one knew. Last time, for example, when the Earth Spirit Beast appeared, a small yellow square that appeared on the fluorescent compass. Is there a connection between the two? Lin Feng frowned. This fiery red logo gave him a familiar feeling. Moreover, compared to the square dot of the Earth Spirit Beast, not only was it much clearer, it was also much larger. I must go and take a look. Lin Feng nodded. Rather than making unnecessary guesses, it was better to experience it for himself. In any case, with his current strength, there was nothing to be afraid of in the inner layer of the ruins of Error. Just as he was about to turn off the fluorescent compass, Lin Feng's eyes suddenly caught a glimpse of the familiar yellow dot. He thought to himself, Wang Hao is quite close to me. Should I go and greet him? After thinking about it, Lin Feng shook his head. Forget it, I have an ordinary relationship with him, so there's no need. If someone approaches me by 1 foot, I will approach them by 10 feet. He didn't have a good impression of Wang Hao, so why should he stick his hot face to his cold butt? Rest is over. After swallowing the last mouthful of dry food and drinking water, Lin Feng stood up, stretched, and let out a long breath. He picked up the leaping dragon spear beside him and shook it with a clang. Lin Feng couldn't help but smile. Let's go further in and continue to cultivate. After saying that, he left. Finally willing to show up, Black Snake looked at the locator in his hand and murmured. As expected of a fire spirit master, daring to break into the inner layer alone. It's really like a newborn calf that is not afraid of a tiger. Black Snake smiled indifferently. Suddenly, as if thinking of something, Black Snake couldn't help but let out a soft cry. He's not going to the fire god forbidden ground, is he? His eyes flashed with a cold light, and Black Snake's speed exploded in an instant. The starry night sky shrouded the ruins of Error. Under the illumination of the starlight, the metal reflected the luster. It was colorful and had a mysterious and beautiful taste. So beautiful, Lin Feng gently praised. Even though tens of thousands of years had passed, the ruins still didn't feel ancient or shabby at all. Hoo-hoo. Lin Feng closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He felt refreshed. Such abundant, elemental energy. Lin Feng murmured. The aura here was stronger than in the outer layer. The cells in his body were full of vitality, as if they were constantly jumping in joy. Quietly standing there, Lin Feng naturally felt the elemental energy. Following the flow of the elemental energy, it seeped into his body. In a split second, his consciousness entered a strange space. It was an extremely beautiful purple flame. Although it was only a small cluster, it possessed a terrifying power that caused one to shudder in fear. Even if Lin Feng's strength improved rapidly, he still felt his soul trembling. This purple flame was capable of incinerating everything. The fire lotus bloomed beautifully. As the purple flame burned, the flame slowly spread from the inside to the outside. From purple to indigo, from blue to green, and then from yellow to orange. The outermost layer was a dark red color, with orange light and a thick mist. As my strength increases, the intensity of the elemental fire I can absorb will also slowly increase. Lin Feng clearly remembered that the first color he saw was a fiery red. The mist was the same, and now it was a dark red and orange color. Moreover, the fire lotus rotates very quickly. Lin Feng could clearly see that the fire lotus rotated slowly. Every rotation caused the elemental fire mist to increase continuously, as if there was a mysterious force pushing it. His cells crazily devoured the elemental fire mist and elemental energy, strengthening his cells. Split, strengthen, split again. Every minute, every second, his body was transforming and evolving. As his consciousness gradually returned, Lin Feng opened his eyes, which shone brightly. towards the center of the inner layer. Let's go. A smile appeared on Lin Feng's face, and then he disappeared into the night. The deeper he went, the denser the beasts, and the stronger they were. While earning money, he cultivated. Every 2 hours, Lin Feng felt that his pocket had an extra 10,000 Tianwu coins. His physical fitness had increased by 1%. Of course, it was just a feeling, but even so, he felt a sense of satisfaction. Very good. Another thorny flower deer. Lin Feng skillfully harvested the thorny antler flower, and with a light burst of elemental fire, he completed the complicated cutting process. If intrepid Bull Li Han was here, his eyes would definitely pop out in shock. Normally, it would take at least 30 minutes to harvest, but Lin Feng finished it in a few seconds. This efficiency was too terrifying. Elemental fire is indeed convenient. Lin Feng smiled and straightened his body. After a month of bitter closed-door cultivation, his control and grasp of essence fire was already a walk in the park. He only needed to control the intensity and harvest. It couldn't be easier. Oh, it's been a day, and I still haven't met a high-level beast general. It can't be right? Lin Feng looked around. The place he was at was already in the range of high-level beast generals. Obviously, his luck wasn't good. I don't believe it. Lin Feng's eyes lit up, and he placed his right hand in front of his chest. In a split second, the elemental fire poured out, and a faint transparent light flashed in front of him. Lin Feng lightly jumped onto the cloud shuttle, and the corner of his mouth raised slightly. Instantly, whoosh, the cloud shuttle flew straight away. Controlling the speed of 3 times, Lin Feng looked around. Nothing. Nothing here either. Whoosh! The cloud shuttle accelerated again, and Lin Feng seemed to have turned into a gust of wind. Suddenly, the cloud shuttle stopped, and Lin Feng looked into the distance. A figure the size of a small mountain was resting in the ruins, snoring like thunder. 3 legs, a short tail, a white skin with lightning patterns, and the rhinoceros horn on its forehead was its symbol. High-level beast general, rhinoceros, thunder beast. Finally, I've found you. Lin Feng's mouth curved into a smile. His body was a little hot from excitement. Lin Feng put away the leaping dragon spear, put on the scarlet refined gloves, the bright fire ring, and the blazing copper wrist guard, and let out a long breath. His spear moves and movement techniques could easily deal with a mid-level beast general, but against a high-level beast general, the difference was too big. Let's see how strong the firefighter is. Lin Feng smiled indifferently. In a split second, the cloud shuttle sped forward, and the huge figure of the rhinoceros thunder beast came into view. The surrounding mid-level beast generals and low-level beast generals all stood up and let out angry and warning roars. In a split second, Lin Feng condensed 2 elemental fires in his hands and turned them into small fireballs. Chi! Chi! Like 2 shooting stars, they quickly flew towards the group of beasts. And in the blink of an eye, Lin Feng's hands condensed 2 small fireballs again. Before the first attack fell, the second attack came. After the amplification, the 6th grade elemental fire sensitivity was completely displayed. There was simply no need for too much time to condense, and the elemental fire already possessed an extremely strong power. Boom! Rumble! Immediately, the group of beasts suffered a calamitous attack. The 2 fireballs exploded in the middle of the group of beasts, and a mid-level beast general was directly swallowed. Sparks flew everywhere, and many low-level beast generals died a violent death. The rhinoceros thunder beast, who was protected by the group of beasts, had just escaped a calamity when the second round of fireballs appeared. Boom! Boom! One in front, one behind, the 2 fireballs had great chemistry. The first fireball blew up the group of beasts in front of the rhinoceros thunder beast, and the second fireball, bang! With a violent explosion, the rhinoceros thunder beast let out a mournful roar, and its entire body trembled as it fell to the ground, dripping with blood. It had suffered a fatal injury in an instant. The group of beasts roared again and again, looking at Lin Feng in the air with great shock, as if they were caged beasts. As expected, in front of elemental fire, even a high-level beast general cannot withstand a single blow. Lin Feng stood on the cloud shuttle, slightly smiling. Shaking his head, Lin Feng's eyes lit up, and two more small fireballs condensed in his hands. In a split second, diving towards a group of beasts. What a powerful energy fluctuation. Black Snake's sinister eyes looked around, and very quickly, it locked onto a direction. Unwilling prey, I've been waiting for you for a long time. Black Snake laughed sinisterly, and immediately stood up, his eyes sparkling. Let's see how our luck is. If there's an expert protecting you, then I, Black Snake, am unlucky. If there's no one protecting you, then you're unlucky. Black Snake's eyes emitted a thick, killing intent. Instantly, he disappeared from the spot. Trailer. The 4th episode is about to end. Begging for recommendation votes. Xiao Xiao's request is not high. Let's get more than 10,000 recommendation votes before it's released. Thank you, everyone. Chapter 81. Not bad. Lin Feng collected the materials from the rhinoceros lightning beast body with a relaxed smile. Just this horn alone is worth 20,000 Tianwu coins. The primordial fire rose and fell. Very quickly, Lin Feng harvested the horn. In the endless wilderness, killing demonic beasts was the main way to earn money. If he didn't even know the value of demonic beasts, wouldn't that be ridiculous? Adding the scatter materials, I should be able to earn close to 30,000 Tianwu coins. Lin Feng muttered, secretly delighted. High-level demonic beast generals were indeed very rich. Killing one of them was equivalent to him working for 6 hours. If I can kill 10 high-level demonic beast generals every day, on average 20,000 Tianwu coins per head, then in less than 2 months, I will be able to earn 10 million Tianwu coins. Lin Feng did not forget that other than cultivating, he still had a huge mission. To earn 10 million Tianwu coins to buy Dragon Eye medicine. But with this kind of killing, my strength will increase slowly. Now, I have to cherish every minute and second. When the Tianwu continent falls, if I am unable to become a titled martial god, my entire family will... It will be difficult to escape this calamity. Weighing the two, Lin Feng clearly knew what he had to do. As my strength increases, I will be able to kill demonic beast generals and earn more money. Although it may be a little late, this is the path I should take. Lin Feng nodded. Very quickly, he finished collecting the materials and disappeared into the night sky. Scarlet Snake Flame Dance is a spear move that is soft but hard. Flame is hard, dance is soft. With dance as the axis, flame as the support, they complement each other. Lin Feng held the leaping dragon spear and danced with the wind. The red spear body had a strong feeling. Lin Feng's feet moved in a strange way. His body seemed to have become one with the leaping dragon spear. In front of him, the whale-white spirit fox was hissing, panicking as it dodged every spear shadow. Its snow-white fur was stained with blood. The whale-white spirit fox was completely at a disadvantage. Its body was injured in many places. No, this flower dance is too slow. This combination of vibration and entanglement is not good enough. Lin Feng seemed to be mumbling to himself as he danced. The overwhelming spear shadows did not give the whale-white spirit fox any chance to counterattack. Sometimes fast, sometimes slow, sometimes sparse, sometimes dense, in an instant. Lin Feng's eyes lit up, and the leaping dragon spear in his hand trembled violently. The originally battered and exhausted whale-white spirit fox was unable to react in time. A dazzling red light flashed, and with a chi sound, it pierced the whale-white spirit fox's chest. Pong! A violent explosion sounded. Although it was not a fatal attack, the whale-white spirit fox was already at the end of its tether. He collapsed to the ground with a loud crash. Oh! Lin Feng withdrew his spear and stood there, a thoughtful look on his face. The last poke does have some feeling, but I still haven't found the essence of the dance in the middle. Shaking his head, Lin Feng immediately bent down. Bang! Bang! Yuan fire suddenly appeared, and Lin Feng easily harvested the whale white skin. This is a good material for making armor. I can't waste it. Lin Feng indifferently smiled. Continue, the next medium-level general. Following Lin Feng's departure, a black shadow slowly appeared. The skinny figure carried a heart-palpitating chill. Not simple. Black Snake's face was solemn. Even without using the power of a fire spirit master, he can still easily kill a medium-level general. And at such a young age, he can already practice the last move of the third level of the heavenly spear art. What shocking comprehension! Others may not be able to see it, but Black Snake had a high status. How could he not have seen the heavenly spear art that was ranked first in the spear arts? After observing for 3 hours, it seems there is no mysterious expert around. Black Snake muttered, "If he really wants to protect me, there is no reason for him to hide in the dark." Black Snake carefully thought, "However, it is better to be safe than sorry. I can't be as reckless as Dao Ba. Anyway, the prey is right in front of me. He can't run away. Let's observe for a while more." Black Snake nodded. In a split second, he disappeared. Lin Feng obviously didn't know that he was being watched. In fact, with his strength, it was impossible for him to discover Black Snake. The difference in strength was not just a little bit. 3 days later. Yes, this is called strength within softness. Soft entanglement, suffocating attack. Lin Feng's eyes were shining. His feet were constantly moving, dodging the attacks of a snake-type magical beast. He was in high spirits. Flame-tailed green snake, medium-level general. This was a rather mini green snake. Of course, this was only when compared to the enormous bodies of other medium-level commanders. The flame-tailed green snake was only 2 meters long and 30 centimeters wide. Not to mention medium-level commanders, even low-level commanders rarely had such a body. However, this was a rather frightening medium-level general. Its attacks were extremely fierce. First, it would change its speed to affect the prey and endlessly entangle it. Once the prey showed a flaw, the flame-tailed green snake would make a shocking sound and launch a suffocating attack. Xiao! Xiao! Like 2 sharp arrows flying back and forth, Lin Feng's eyes flashed with a bright luster. While dodging, the soaring dragon spear in his hand fiercely vibrated, making chi-chi sounds just like the flame-tailed green snake's tail. With a light entanglement, he took away one of the flame-tailed green snake's attacks. Soon after, the soaring dragon spear danced with a fiery red wave. In a split second, Lin Feng's attack was launched. A strong stream of air moved like a dancing fire dragon. In the dance, there was a desire to resist, but also to meet. Every dance of the spear seemed to be connected with a fatal attack, making it impossible to guard against. The flame-tailed green snake stuck out its tongue and hissed repeatedly. It completely didn't understand. Why did the prey suddenly become the hunter? The fierce spear was simply unstoppable. All that could be seen was a sparkling red light. Now is the time. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Spear move. Scarlet snake flaming dance. Like a fiery snake, the soaring dragon spear let out an extremely loud, vibrating sound. With a chi sound, it directly pierced through the flame-tailed green snake's head. Astonishing speed. Phew! Lin Feng let out a long breath with a satisfied smile on his face. He finally understood the essence of the scarlet snake flaming dance and grasped that feeling. Thank you. Looking at the flame-tailed green snake's corpse, Lin Feng smiled slightly. Abnormal talent. Monstrous talent. The black snake ground its teeth and revealed a jealous expression. After observing Lin Feng for 3 whole days, watching him cultivate, watching him comprehend, this feeling deeply subverted the cultivation of a martial artist in its mind. This little guy definitely has the strongest comprehension ability I have ever seen in my life. The black snake was indescribably astonished. Coupled with his talent as a fire spirit master, he is definitely an existence that surpasses this special genius. Without a doubt, the black snake thought to itself, given enough time, he will definitely become a titled martial god. This kind of monstrous talent should be reported to the organization, but the black snake clenched its teeth. There's not much time left. The 8th rank beasts are rioting, and the human race is about to go extinct. Only a titled martial god may be able to preserve his life. The black snake looked at Lin Feng not far away with a burning gaze. As long as I obtain the elemental fire seed, I will have a chance to become a titled martial god. I definitely cannot miss this opportunity. Consider yourself unlucky, little guy. The black snake revealed a faint killing intent. After 3 days of observation, the black snake was basically certain. Lin Feng did not have the protection of a strong warrior. He was going to take a gamble. The flame-tailed green snake's flaming tail is quite valuable. Including its skin, it is equivalent to the value of half a high-level beast general. The elemental fire in his hand slightly gathered as Lin Feng collected the materials from the flame-tailed green snake's body with satisfaction. Suddenly, Lin Feng felt an intense chill from the bottom of his heart. In an instant, his body trembled violently. His hair stood on end. Not good. Lin Feng's head exploded with a loud bang. An incomparably terrifying force appeared behind him, filled with an intense, killing intent. Lin Feng seemed to see a black figure. The battle blade was like lightning, chopping towards the back of his neck. Terrifying speed, incomparable strength. In an instant, Lin Feng's heart seemed to stop beating, and his blood froze. No! Lin Feng shouted with all his might. That momentary feeling suddenly emerged with a bang. The powerful force in his mind surged out, wanting to stop the battle blade. However, the black snake was not a vulture. The black snake's eyes flickered, as if it felt a pressure. However, the speed of the battle blade was only delayed by half a second. It could not stop it at all. Die! The black snake's mouth curved into a cold smile. The difference in strength was too great. Am I going to die? Lin Feng couldn't move at all as he watched the saber slashing down. His body seemed to have turned into a stone statue. No, I can't die. How can I die? Lin Feng's body trembled violently. The obsession in his heart was incomparably firm. However, it was beyond the scope of his abilities. In his heart, he was close to despair. Lin Feng hated that he still had too many things to do. In his mind, the faces of his family appeared one by one, making Lin Feng tremble. Suddenly, bang! There was a sudden explosion. In an instant, Lin Feng felt an intense pain, but he quickly regained consciousness. His body was knocked back by a powerful force. His internal organs were like dragons churning, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. In midair, Lin Feng suddenly saw a huge shuttle-shaped shield emitting a faint light. His eyes suddenly brightened. Cloud shuttle. Lin Feng was greatly shocked. At this moment, he finally understood what his father said. The cloud shuttle had a defensive function. How is it possible? The black snake was shocked. His attack was blocked? What was that shuttle-shaped shield? God! Treasure. The black snake's face suddenly became ferocious, revealing an incomparably greedy look. In midair, Lin Feng's figure was clearly seen flying backward. The shuttle-shaped shield had already been chopped away. In an instant, the black snake's right foot stomped on the ground, and his body burst out with a terrifying speed. Go to hell. At this moment, Lin Feng finally saw the face of the sneak attacker. However, it was useless. Although the cloud shuttle was close, it seemed to be far away. In front of his eyes, the shadow of a blade was already shining brightly, aiming at his throat. In an instant, Lin Feng's spirit was completely focused. All of his spirit was concentrated in his eyes. Like two sharp arrows, they shot directly at the black snake. Bang! The black snake only felt a boom in his head, and his body stopped. What's going on? The black snake was incomparably shocked, but he couldn't react at all. Lin Feng felt a sharp pain in his head. The moment he looked into the black snake's eyes, it was as if he was struck by lightning. The powerful reaction made him almost faint. Pooh! He spat out blood. The sky and earth spun. Lin Feng only felt his vision blur. How can I die here? Lin Feng fiercely bit the tip of his tongue. The taste of blood went straight into his throat. The sharp pain made him suddenly sober up a little. His persistence at the crucial moment finally met with a reward. Although his vision was blurry, Lin Feng vaguely caught a glimpse of that familiar faint light. Cloud shuttle. Lin Feng's right hand almost instinctively reached out, feeling that familiar touch. Boom! Elemental fire poured out fiercely. Lin Feng's right hand tightly grasped the cloud shuttle, but he didn't even have the strength to stand. Go! Lin Feng clenched his teeth tightly. In an instant, the cloud shuttle was like a shooting star blooming with light, flying away at high speed. End of the 4th episode. Please recommend. Chapter 82. Where is he? The black snake roared angrily. In the blink of an eye, Lin Feng had disappeared without a trace. The black snake frantically searched everywhere, but there was no sign of him. Impossible. The black snake's face was pale. Although he didn't want to admit it, the black snake knew. The prey in his hands was lost right under his nose. This kid actually has a treasure, a defensive treasure. The black snake's eyes were full of greed. Every single one of these treasures was priceless. He is injured. He can't run far. The black snake held his saber tightly, the corner of his eyes twisted with deep hatred. Want to run? Don't dream. Even if I have to turn over the ruins of I will catch you. The primordial fire seed is mine. Your treasure is also mine. Definitely. The black snake roared to the sky. In an inconspicuous metal ruin. In the basement, Lin Feng was lying on the ground with a pale face, unconscious. Relying on his tenacious willpower and the stimulation of pain, Lin Feng overdrew his energy to fly the cloud shuttle for a full incense's time, until the last bit of energy was exhausted. This place was similar to a cellar, and it was not conspicuous. It was not easy to find a person in Cloud Sun City. Not to mention that the ruins of it were densely packed with magical beasts, and the area was more than 10 times larger than Cloud Sun City. Ugh! Lin Feng let out a soft moan. His eyelids trembled slightly, as if it was extremely difficult. Lin Feng slowly opened his eyes. I'm still alive. Feeling his weak body, Lin Feng wanted to move his hands, but he suddenly realized he didn't have any strength. Giving up on getting up, Lin Feng lay on the ground. A trace of coldness passed through his back. Lin Feng looked up at the metal ceiling. Just now. He wanted to remember something, wanted to think about something, but his head was splitting. Lin Feng groaned heavily. He vaguely understood what happened to him. This was the result of severely overdrawing his energy. Lin Feng breathed deeply as he lay on the ground, his mind blank. He relaxed his body, feeling the pain that was almost like convulsions. Gradually, he closed his eyes. A cup of tea. 15 minutes. 2 hours. When he woke up again, Lin Feng's face had already recovered some color. I've escaped yet another calamity. Lin Feng smiled tiredly. He gently propped himself up and let out a long sigh. Just now, it was indeed a narrow escape. If it wasn't for the protection of the cloud shuttle, the black-clothed man's first sneak attack would have killed him. If it wasn't for the outburst of his spirit, he wouldn't have had the chance to escape. It was too dangerous. Now that he thought about it, Lin Feng felt his hair stand on end. He is definitely in existence on the same level as Emperor Wu, Lin Feng thought. Otherwise, he would absolutely not be like an ant without the slightest ability to resist. But why does he want to kill me? Lin Feng was puzzled. As his spirit slowly recovered, Lin Feng's thoughts also returned to normal. It's Lin Xianglong. Lin Feng thought for a moment and immediately rejected it. Impossible! Lin Xianglong would definitely not know such a strong person. If this matter was related to Lin Xianglong, he could have just directly found this strong person to kill him. Why would he personally take the risk? It was too contradictory. Could it be? Lin Feng was instantly shocked. My identity as a fire spirit master was leaked? This thought suddenly appeared in his mind. Lin Feng was greatly shocked and quickly nodded. Yes, it's him. It's the Silver Wolf. He must have leaked my secret. Lin Feng suddenly understood. This makes sense, but if the Silver Wolf wanted revenge, he should have leaked my secret long ago. Why would he only take action now? As Lin Feng was thinking, he suddenly trembled. Right, how could I forget Scar Wang Hu? According to time, it just matched. At that time, he did not think too deeply because with Scar Wang Hu's strength, killing him would be as easy as flipping his hand. But how could he die? Lin Feng shook his head. There were too many doubts. This matter is very likely. Otherwise, there is no way to explain it. Lin Feng's mind was very clear now. He had only been a martial artist for a short time and had not made many enemies. Obviously, this was the most likely. Sure enough, there is no such thing as an airtight wall in the world. Lin Feng secretly sighed. No matter what, I should first recover from my injuries and recover my spirit before I think about it. Nodding, Lin Feng immediately sat cross-legged and closed his eyes. Damn it! Black Snake's eyes flashed with thick anger. He had already combed through the area within a radius of 100 miles. Even a magical beast had been completely cleared out. However, there was no trace of Lin Feng. He's so King fast. Black Snake grinded his teeth. How could he have known that Lin Feng had risked his life to fly at top speed for the time it took for an incense stick to burn, in fear of being found by him? 100 miles? It was far more than 1,000 miles. This is really troublesome. This kid is deliberately hiding. It's too difficult to find him. Black Snake knew very well how big the ruins of Air were. Finding a person was undoubtedly like finding a needle in a haystack. However, his strength can only deal with mid-level beast generals. Once he encounters a high-level beast general, he must use primordial fire. Black Snake thought to himself, if there were strong energy fluctuations around him, he would be able to sense it, but the premise was that he was close. Looking at the locator on his wrist, Black Snake's eyes flashed with a bright light. His biggest hope now was this. After resting for 3 days and 3 nights, Lin Feng finally recovered. Standing up, Lin Feng sighed softly. I didn't expect that overuse of energy would have such serious repercussions. Until now, when he used his energy, he still felt a slight pain. It was like a wound that had just healed. I don't know if something will happen at home. Lin Feng was faintly worried, although the possibility was small, but muttering in his heart, Lin Feng immediately opened the fluorescent compass. When he did not see any information, he was relieved. If something had happened at home, with his sister's character, she would have anxiously told him. She would not be so quiet. Opening the map, Lin Feng's gaze flickered. Hey, I'm here now. His current position was already in the center of the inner area, not too far from the fiery red mark. After thinking about it, Lin Feng immediately felt relieved. At that time, in order to avoid the black-clothed man's pursuit, he drove the cloud shuttle and pushed its speed to the limit. It was normal for him to run such a long distance. Exiting the map, Lin Feng was about to turn off the fluorescent compass when suddenly, Lin Feng was startled. As far as the eye could see, a small yellow came into view. Wang Hao, the inner area? Lin Feng was surprised and frowned slightly. Impossible. With Wang Hao's strength, how could he enter the inner area? Thinking about it, Lin Feng could not help but feel confused. He glanced again, and in an instant, his eyes sparkled. That yellow dot was actually moving in his direction. Suddenly, Lin Feng's hair stood on end, and a chill ran down his spine. No, he's definitely not Wang Hao. Lin Feng's eyes widened as he said in shock. It's him. It must be the black-clothed man. At this moment, if Lin Feng still did not understand, then he was really stupid. Almost instantly, Lin Feng pressed the close button. Taking a deep breath, Lin Feng's eyes revealed a strong light. He clenched his fist and roared, Wang Hao, you dare to betray me. I will never forgive you. Lin Feng's hands suddenly gathered two balls of flames. Rumble, the fireballs wreaked havoc, and the cellar was suddenly torn apart. In a cloud of dust, Lin Feng floated in the air with bloodshot eyes. The cloud shuttle under his feet shone with a bright light. At this moment, Lin Feng felt like a knife was cutting him. Never in his wildest dreams would he have thought that he would be betrayed by his comrades in the same squad. We can't stay here any longer. Lin Feng's eyes were bright. Some people, when faced with danger, would be afraid and would not know what to do. And some people, when faced with a big situation, would be excited and would exert strength far beyond their own strength. Lin Feng was obviously the latter. The more dangerous the situation, the calmer and more clear-headed he was. Let's go. Lin Feng's expression was cold. Suddenly, the cloud shuttle flew away, drawing a beautiful arc in the sky like a meteor. In an instant, it turned into a dot of light and disappeared. 15 minutes later, damn it, he slipped away again. Black Snake was flustered and exasperated. Sensing the little bit of energy left in the ruins, the Black Snake was furious and roared angrily. He was a bona fide medial-grade martial emperor. Yet, he had been played around by an elementary-grade martial grandmaster. Again and again, he had slipped through his fingers. It was a complete disgrace. This cunning prey, Black Snake gritted his teeth and pointed. He must have thought that I would escape in a straight line. Standing on the cloud shuttle, Lin Feng looked ahead indifferently. This was an inertial thought. Escaping in a straight line could increase the distance between them to the greatest extent, but I chose to run in a different direction. Lin Feng smiled and said, everything in front of him was hazy. Once his speed exceeded his body's limit by more than 3 times, Lin Feng could not see his surroundings clearly. However, it did not matter. This direction should be towards the center of the inner layer. A map of the inner layer appeared in Lin Feng's mind. He murmured softly, according to the fluorescent compass, there is a fiery red mark there. I wonder, what does it mean? He had always been curious about this. However, now is not the time to satisfy my curiosity. Lin Feng shook his head. Now, I should think of a way to get rid of this black-clothed man and escape safely. Soon, Lin Feng fell in a deep thought. The cloud shuttle was like a sharp arrow flying in the sky. The tower-like metal buildings were left behind. Lin Feng did not see that gradually. He entered the area of a huge basin. The fiery red color covered the sky. In an instant, what's going on? Lin Feng's expression changed instantly. His heartbeat sped up. He actually felt a familiar energy fluctuation. Leaving a suspense, please recommend me. Chapter 83. Whoosh! The cloud shuttle instantly slowed down. Looking around, Lin Feng realized that he had come to a completely foreign place. The sky was red, and mist covered the entire sky. Looking down, there were no more tall towers or metal ruins. There were only majestic gray stone buildings, ancient and gloomy. The topography of the mountain range rose and fell, forming a funnel-like shape with a strong sense of hierarchy. What is this place? Lin Feng exclaimed. He seemed to have passed through the ruins of and arrived at an unknown space. He recalled what happened just now. Suddenly, Lin Feng was stunned. Could this be where the fiery red mark is? Lin Feng was shocked. Looking around, Lin Feng felt that familiar feeling in his heart again like a wave. His eyes lit up. Let's go there and take a look. Lin Feng was moved. In an instant, the cloud shuttle flew. The deeper he went, the stronger the throbbing feeling became. It was as if something was calling out to his body. Lin Feng couldn't help but slow down. His intuition told him that this was not a simple matter. When the Earth Spirit Beast appeared, it flashed a small yellow square dot on the fluorescent compass. This red mark was thousands of times bigger than that square dot. It was very mysterious. I have to be careful, Lin Feng said to himself. He had just narrowly escaped death. He didn't want to die here for no reason. Slowly, Lin Feng carefully flew forward. 15 minutes later, heavens! What is that? Lin Feng stared at the scene in front of him in shock. He felt as though his breathing had stopped. What he saw was a sea of fire. That's right, it was a real sea of fire. The flames were boiling. The fire covered the sky and burned. It was 1,000 meters tall and stretched for thousands of miles. It was boundless. He couldn't see the end of it, but he could feel the scorching heat. It was as if it wanted to burn one's soul to ashes. The flames burned fiercely and made sizzling sounds. How familiar! Lin Feng's eyes flickered. From the boundless sea of fire, he felt a sense of familiarity from the heart. That's right, it was essence fire. Lin Feng only felt the primordial fire in his body being mobilized in a split second. The fire lotus swayed and spun even faster. The purple flames seemed to be trembling slightly. Every inch of his skin felt plump and full of power. How magical! Lin Feng exclaimed. Just by standing there, he could feel that his strength was slowly increasing. If he could get even closer, Lin Feng was very curious about what kind of existence existed in this sea of fire, but his intuition told him that it was very dangerous. Picking up a pebble from the ground, Lin Feng's eyes suddenly brightened. Swish! The stone flew straight into the sea of flames. Whoosh! Halfway there, he had already turned into ashes. As expected, Lin Feng nodded. Flying in all directions, Lin Feng constantly scanned the surroundings, looking for hard stones. This is it. Lin Feng weighed the craggy stone in his hand. After testing, this craggy stone could withstand the attack of his small fireball and only break. In other words, it had a hardness of 256 titanium. Lin Feng exerted force with both hands and threw the craggy stone into the sea of flames. Phew, phew! With a sharp sound, the craggy stone seemed to have turned into a shooting star, instantly crossing the previous boundary. However, bang, bang! Soon, the craggy stone seemed to have caught fire. In the blink of an eye, it was burned to ashes. It only lasted half a second longer than the first pebble. Shaking his head, Lin Feng's expression was very serious. Obviously, this sea of flames didn't recognize anyone, and if he were to barge in forcefully, then the consequences would undoubtedly be no different than the rock. Lin Feng did not think that his body was stronger than that craggy stone. What a pity. Is there really no other way? Lin Feng felt a little melancholy. Suddenly, the cloud shuttle appeared under his feet. Let's take a look around. Maybe we'll find something new. Lin Feng disappeared in an instant. Damn, this kid is too cunning. Black Snake cursed as he drank water. After searching for 6 hours, not even a shadow could be found, let alone a person. Because of the beast riot, there were few people in the ruins of Error. Otherwise, perhaps a hunter team could provide some information. Where did he escape to? Black Snake frowned and thought carefully. Glancing at the locator on his left hand, Black Snake let out a long breath and felt depressed. The worst thing was to see something but not be able to eat it. He had clearly caught his prey, but he had been so close that he had escaped without a trace. Damn it! Black Snake clenched his teeth and squeezed a water bottle into a ball. Originally, I could have obtained the primordial fire seed and become a fire spirit master. Black Snake's eyes shone brightly. Suddenly, he was stunned. Right, a fire spirit master. Why didn't I think of the fire god's forbidden ground here? Black Snake stood up suddenly. Judging from the direction of the prey, his original goal was obviously the fire god's forbidden ground. Yes, that was it. The Black Snake raised its head and let out a long roar. Suddenly, like a sharp arrow piercing through the air, it disappeared into the horizon. 3 hours later. It's exactly the same. Lin Feng sighed softly. He had circled around at a speed of nearly 1,000 meters per second and returned to the same place. However, he still couldn't find anything special. This was a sea of fire. Strangers do not come near. Give up. Lin Feng shook his head. Although he was reluctant, he knew that now was not the time to satisfy his curiosity, although the feeling in his heart was familiar and intimate. But If it wasn't for the man in black, my strength would definitely increase rapidly even if I were to cultivate here. Lin Feng thought it was a pity. The air here was filled with hot fire. When absorbed into the body, it not only turned into origin energy, but also acted as a catalyst to promote the absorption of origin fire in the body. It was like killing two birds with one stone. I have to go. If I'm found, it will be troublesome. Lin Feng nodded slightly. His body seemed to feel a little strange. Lin Feng subconsciously looked back and seemed to have caught a glimpse of something. In an instant, his expression changed. It's him. Lin Feng was shocked. Let's see where you can run to this time. Black Snake's eyes were extremely cold. After circling around the sea of fire, he finally found the location of the prey. Sure enough, it was just as he expected. Close at hand. Black Snake sneered. He was about to pull out the saber at his waist and kill this cunning prey. Suddenly, there was a boom in his head. His eyes, which were looking at Lin Feng, were drowned. His vision turned black and his body staggered inexplicably. Damn it again! Black Snake cursed in his heart. He was careless and fell into the trap again. Lin Feng endured the excruciating pain in his head. Once again, he felt the world spinning. However, this time, he reacted faster than before. Go! Stepping on the cloud shuttle, Lin Feng clenched his teeth and immediately flew away. Boom! Rumble! In a daze, Lin Feng bit the tip of his tongue and relied on the blood and pain to stimulate himself. But this time, it was worse than the last time. The wound had not healed and was torn open again. Don't even think about leaving. Black Snake's roar shook angrily behind him, but it made Lin Feng's desire to live even stronger. He would definitely not die here. Never. The pain kept coming, but Lin Feng's mind was incomparably focused. Every second, every moment, one escape plan after another appeared in his mind. Everyone, under the threat of death, would unleash their true potential. Lin Feng was no exception. In a short period of time, he had experienced it again and again. Whoosh! The cloud shuttle flew quickly. Suddenly, Lin Feng's eyes burned. The cloud shuttle suddenly turned strangely and tilted upwards. Stupid. I should have flown up long ago. Lin Feng suddenly realized. That man in black might be able to catch up to me in a straight line, but in the sky, can he catch up? Can he fly? Lin Feng showed a weak but confident smile. He thought of one complicated plan after another, but sometimes the real plan was often very simple. No. Watching Lin Feng fly into the sky, Black Snake's eyes were wide open. He was scared out of his wits. That feeling was not like a prey slipping through his fingers. Instead, it was like he was walking slowly in front of him, but he was powerless to do anything. Bang! With both hands on the ground, Black Snake's face turned green and white. At this moment, he knew clearly he had failed. Phew! Letting out a long breath, Lin Feng sat on the cloud shuttle, paralyzed. With a dispirited expression, Lin Feng closed his eyes and breathed rapidly. In just a few seconds, it felt as long as a few years. Finally, we're safe. Lin Feng felt extremely tired. No, I have to find a place to rest immediately. Muttering in his heart, Lin Feng slowly got up and looked around. Suddenly, Lin Feng was startled. No, the heat here, looking down at the flame that was 1,000 meters high, he had unknowingly come to the sky above the sea of fire. Looking into the distance, he could only see a hazy mist. It was very mysterious in the middle of the sea of fire. Lin Feng suddenly thought and changed direction, diving down. As expected, the temperature in the sky is not high. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. The familiar sea of fire was right in front of him, but he could no longer feel the heat and pressure. Although his body was slightly hot, it was still within his tolerance range. Suddenly, the cloud shuttle accelerated again, passing through the barrier of the sea of fire and entering it. Bang! Landing safely on the ground, Lin Feng showed a weak smile. I'm in. Please recommend carrot. Chapter 84. Looking ahead, it was a huge valley. Although the atmosphere was extremely hot, there were many flowers and trees that were very heat-resistant. So there's another world in the sea of fire, Lin Feng murmured softly. Putting away the cloud shuttle, Lin Feng stepped forward. The vast world was filled with fog. Looking up at the sky, it seemed to be covered by a layer of fiery red smoke. He could not see the color of the sky at all. Suddenly, Lin Feng felt a burst of pain in his head. He quickly closed his eyes. Putting the cloud shuttle in front of his chest, Lin Feng sat on the ground. Soon, he fell into a deep coma. With the cloud shuttle's protection, Lin Feng was not worried about any danger. It could even resist Emperor Wu's attack. It showed the cloud shuttle's defensive power. It was very strong. Damn it. He must have entered the fire god forbidden ground. Black Snake clenched his fist. He was unwilling. He couldn't accept the fact that Lin Feng had slipped through his fingers twice in a row. But what could he do? He even has a flying treasure. Black Snake's eyes were full of jealousy. Looking at the vast sea of fire in front of him, his face was very ugly. I can't even enter the sea of fire barrier. Even if I can. Black Snake sighed softly. He would not dare to enter the fire god forbidden ground, even if he had 100 guts. Even the king is afraid. If the fire god wants to kill me, it will be as easy as killing an ant. Black Snake shook his head. No matter how unwilling he was, he had to give up. Go back and report to the captain first. Black Snake thought in his heart and immediately disappeared. 4 hours later, Lin Feng woke up slowly, frowning slightly. Although his head was still in pain, at least he had returned to normal. Twice in a row, my energy is completely overdrawn. Lin Feng knew very well how much damage overdrawing would do to the body. Compared to the last time, this time it was much more serious. After all, the wound had not healed at all. I have to rest for a while to slowly recover. Since he can't come in, I'll just stay here and recuperate. Looking at the sea of fire in the distance, Lin Feng smiled. Just a moment ago, this was a huge problem that was blocking his path. But now, it had become his guardian. With this sea of fire around, the black-clothed man could only sigh. I will remember the enmity of being hunted down twice. Lin Feng's eyes shone with a sharp light. In his mind, the black-clothed man's face was deeply etched in his memory, encouraging him to never forget this humiliation. A man is not a man if he does not take revenge. If you advance 1 foot, I will advance 10 feet. Let's recover first before making any plans. Lin Feng pondered for a moment before closing his eyes. Soon, he began to meditate and cultivate. Day after day passed. Lin Feng spent an entire 10 days and 10 nights in this sea of fire that seemed to stand aloof from worldly affairs. He did nothing but sit cross-legged and cultivate. He sensed, absorbed, and refined the elemental energy. It was simple, but it was the fastest way to recover his energy. Phew, Lin Feng stood up slowly. It's about time. It doesn't affect my body much. Lin Feng clenched his fists. With a thought, 2 clusters of flames appeared on his hands, burning fiercely. In this sea of fire, they seemed to burn even more vigorously, becoming even more enchanting and ferocious. Pah! The elemental fire extinguished. There's still some sequelae. Lin Feng clicked his tongue and said softly. It was like a wound. Although 70 to 80% healed, the scar had yet to form and it still hurt faintly. I should go and explore this place. What exactly is here? Lin Feng's eyes were filled with curiosity. Ever since he entered, he had been suppressing his curiosity. Because his body had yet to recover, he had to give up the idea. It would be troublesome if he encountered danger. But now, what kind of place is this? And that sea of fire, how did it form? What secrets does it hide? Lin Feng had countless questions, but he couldn't find the answers. He had to find the answers himself. In this strange sea of fire valley, Lin Feng felt a sense of familiarity and intimacy. It was as if this was his own home, the warmth. Cloud shuttle. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. In a split second, the light-colored, transparent cloud shuttle floated in the air. Lin Feng jumped lightly and stood still. Whoosh! The cloud shuttle sped forward. So hot. The fire in the air is so dense. Lin Feng's heart thumped. The deeper he went, the clearer the feeling became. What did this mean? If I can cultivate here, my body's quality will definitely improve by leaps and bounds. Lin Feng felt that it was inconceivable. In less than half an hour, the density of the fire in the air had increased by several times. It was equivalent to his cultivation speed had also increased by several times. How astonishing! Lin Feng was surprised and blinked his eyes. Am I seeing things? Lin Feng was surprised. In the distance, he actually saw a magical beast. Its entire body was covered in fiery red fur, and there was a spiral horn on its forehead that looked like a sharp sword. Big nostrils, thick and short limbs, and a long tail. All of these showed its status. This was a pig-type magical beast. But Lin Feng was stunned. It looks like a rippling sword pig, but its fur isn't fiery red. Also, Lin Feng shook his head. How could a beginner-level rippling sword pig be this big? It's completely the size of a middle-level rippling sword pig, but it's a far cry from a blue prison sword pig. All kinds of magical beasts had different body shapes and characteristics. It was very easy to distinguish a magical beast's general strength from its body shape. Lin Feng once again went through the list of general-level magical beasts in his mind. The conclusion he reached was still not clear. Could it be? Lin Feng was shocked. Although he was familiar with the Magical Beast Encyclopedia, there was one type of magical beast that he didn't know about. A special magical beast, spirit beast. This is a spirit beast like the profound horned lizard? Lin Feng's eyes suddenly lit up, as if he thought of something. Just as he was about to open the fluorescent compass, he suddenly stopped. That's not right. Once the fluorescent compass is opened, wouldn't it know my position? After a slight hesitation, Lin Feng immediately gave up on this plan. To verify whether this fire-red rippling sword pig is a spirit beast, Lin Feng smiled indifferently. It's too simple. Kill it and see if it has an inner core. Magical beasts absorb the essence of heaven and earth and form an inner core. Indifferently standing in midair, Lin Feng's hands lit up with two clusters of flames, forming a fireball in a split second. It's almost equivalent to the attack of a high-level martial grandmaster. Lin Feng's eyes flashed, but he was already showing mercy. Chi! Chi! The two fireballs flew towards the fiery red, rippling sword pig, one after the other. In a split second, the flames spread and the sound of something breaking through the air rang out. The fiery red, rippling sword pig immediately sensed the danger and turned its head. Its small eyes flickered with light as it howled. Its body arched, and the spiral horn actually blossomed with light in an instant. Oh! Lin Feng was astonished. He could see that the spiral horn was actually emitting a thick flame. It was extremely strange. Bang! The first fireball instantly collided with the fiery red, rippling sword pig. An extremely angry roar sounded, filled with ruthlessness and hysteria. It can actually block the attack of a high-level martial grandmaster. Lin Feng's eyes suddenly lit up. However, in an instant, the second fireball arrived. The fire-red, rippling sword pig had no way of dodging. Its horn flickered with a weak flame. It was actually boom. A violent explosion sounded. Lin Feng quietly stood in midair, looking down at the half-dead fire-red, rippling sword pig, and lightly nodded. It's the same type of fire elemental energy. Lin Feng indifferently smiled. As expected, this fiery red, rippling sword pig was without a doubt a fire spirit beast. It should be a mutation of a low-level rippling sword pig, but it's quite powerful. Not only does it know how to use fire elemental energy, it also has the strength of a high-level beast general. Lin Feng muttered to himself. If he used the leaping dragon spear to clash with it, the result would be extremely miserable. Similar to celestial spirit masters, spirit beasts also need time to stabilize before they can display their true strength. Lin Feng's heart trembled. The first time he met an earth spirit beast, the mysterious hill lizard, compared to this fire spirit beast, they were on completely different levels. Let's see if there are any fire spirit pills. Lin Feng immediately swooped down, condensing a cluster of flames in his right hand, turning it into a fireball and attacking the fiery red, rippling sword pig. With a rumbling sound, the fiery red, rippling sword pig no longer had any strength to resist. It was completely dead. After cutting off the spiral horn, Lin Feng began to peel off the skin and remove the bones. Not long later, this is it. Lin Feng held a light red pearl-like small round ball with one hand, his eyes filled with joy. Previously, an earth spirit pill was sold for a total of 50,000 celestial martial coins. After keeping the fire spirit pill, Lin Feng stepped onto the cloud shuttle again. His eyes flickered with a bright luster as he nodded and said, "Let's go to other places to take a look." With that thought, Lin Feng immediately turned into a cloud of smoke and disappeared. In an underground palace, painted buildings and carved beams were dazzling. "Captain," Black Snake knelt on one knee, cupped his fist, and said, "This subordinate was unable to complete the mission. Please punish me. It's not your fault." With a deep voice, the black-clothed man sitting on the golden dragon throne said with a gloomy expression, "Scar died in the hands of that expert. It's already pretty good that you were able to injure him." Black Snake's eyes flashed. Unfortunately, that prey had a flying-type treasure. I couldn't catch up with him. The captain in front of him, Greenwood Dove, wasn't someone easy to deal with. If he couldn't find a suitable reason to get away with it, he would be in a lot of trouble. The fire god Forbidden Ground isn't a place where you and I can enter. The black-clothed man, Greenwood Dove, shook his head and said slowly, "The value of this prey should be extremely high. I'll immediately apply for a flying-type treasure from King. Although the fire god favors fire spirit masters, he won't let him stay in the fire god Forbidden Ground. I believe the prey will be expelled soon. Go guard the fire god Forbidden Ground and make up for your mistakes." Greenwood Dove said coldly. "Yes, Captain." Black Snake's expression was solemn. "Do you need the help of other hunters?" Greenwood Dove asked indifferently. "This subordinate alone is enough," Black Snake said in a deep voice. Black Snake's eyes flashed. How could he let others get a share of this cake? After killing the prey, the primordial fire seed would be his, and the defensive-type treasure would also be his. Thank you for your support. I'm looking for a recommendation vote for every chapter in this little public edition. Haha, P.S. I sent the wrong chapter. I sent the 4th chapter. Chapter 85. 3 pills for pills. 5 pills. Fire God Forbidden Ground. Lin Feng leisurely sat on a craggy rock, counting his gains. 5 fire spirit pills, all of them different colors and sizes. They came from 5 different fire spirit beasts. The weakest one was a middle-level general, and the strongest one was very close to a horde leader. Last time, the earth spirit pill was only rank 8, but it was worth 50,000 Tianwu coins. This time, Lin Feng held the biggest fire spiritual pill in his hand, his eyes shining. I wonder if this fire spiritual pill will be of the 7th level. Fire spirit pills were the same as earth spirit pills. They were also ranked from 1 to 9. The difference was the type of spirit beast and the time it took to form. The higher the rank, the more valuable the fire spirit pill was. Fire spirit beasts are stronger than spirit beasts of the same rank. After going through 5 battles, Lin Feng had a deep understanding of this. The strength of their bodies might be similar, but fire spirit beasts have special methods, the use of primordial fire. If I wasn't a firefighter, I probably wouldn't be able to kill a single one. Lin Feng couldn't help but shake his head. With his strength, he could kill most of the normal middle-level general-level spirit beasts, but against a middle-level general-level fire spirit beast, he wouldn't stand a chance. But this place is strange. Looking at the corpse of the fire spirit beast not far away, Lin Feng frowned. First of all, every fire spirit beast acted alone without any subordinates. Second, he didn't even see a single normal spirit beast. It was as if this place specialized in producing fire spirit beasts. He couldn't see any other types. Maybe it's because the fire in the air is thicker. Lin Feng explained himself. Thinking about it, although it was possible, it couldn't be that there wasn't even a single normal spirit beast, right? That'd make sense. Could it be that every spirit beast here was born as a fire spirit beast? Lin Feng smiled, but didn't think too much about it. Who cares? I'll just kill as many as I can. Many little drops make a mickle. No, many a mickle makes a mickle. Regardless of the grade, each fire spirit pill is worth a fortune. If I can get 200 of them, wouldn't I be able to get 10 million Tianwu coins? Thinking about it, Lin Feng chuckled to himself. Wasn't it too wishful thinking? I wonder if I'll encounter a horde, Lord-level fire spirit beast if I continue to walk in. Lin Feng muttered to himself. His heart was filled with both excitement and fear. After all, his physical fitness was only at the level of a beginner martial grandmaster, while the firefighter's strength had just reached the level of a beginner Emperor Wu. What's there to be afraid of? If worst comes to worst, we'll just run away. Lin Feng immediately smiled. I'm not even afraid of warriors like Emperor Wu, so why should I be afraid of a mere horde lord? Between a magical beast and a martial artist of the same level, the speed of a martial artist was slightly faster. The deeper he went, the hotter it became. Sweat seeped out his back. Lin Feng felt as if his heart was on fire. Pah! The cloud shuttle stopped moving forward. Lin Feng let out a long breath. What he saw was still a dense fog. According to his estimation, he was still a long way from the center. I can't go any further, Lin Feng thought to himself. His body couldn't take it. Lin Feng knew very well where his limit was. Stubbornly holding on wasn't a good thing. Since I can't find a fire spirit beast, it's not bad to cultivate here. Lin Feng went with the flow and sat down cross-legged. On the cloud shuttle, it was safe and convenient. He also didn't have to be afraid of a magical beast sneak attack. If I cultivate here, I should be able to become a mid-level martial grandmaster very quickly. Lin Feng closed his eyes and relaxed his body. In an instant, he entered a strange and empty state. The surrounding origin energy, mixed with the strange fire, immediately surged in. In an instant, his body felt as if it was filled to the brim. His ears, nose, eyes, mouth, every inch of his skin crazily absorbed the purest heaven and earth energy, seeping into his body. His cells continuously strengthened, divided, and strengthened again. The fiery red light flowed through every meridian in his body, fusing with the origin fire mist. The fire lotus spun faster and faster. Every moment, Lin Feng felt as if he was a balloon that was stretched to its limit. His cells crazily absorbed, desperately absorbed, but it was still far from enough. Fast, fast, fast. Under the pressure of the environment, under the stimulation of his own potential, Lin Feng's body constantly transformed, adapting to the surrounding environment, rapidly changing. One day, another day, another day, Lin Feng was like an old monk in meditation, not moving at all. At this moment, his body had already changed. 7 days had passed. The fire Lin Feng absorbed, the origin fire brought by the fire lotus, gradually became proportional to the absorption and digestion of his cells. A cycle. Two halves balanced each other out. Phew. He slowly exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. Lin Feng opened his eyes and looked around. They were much brighter, and he could see a little more clearly in the distant fog. His eyesight had improved a lot. Standing up, Lin Feng fiercely punched out. Bang! There was the sound of an explosion. My strength has increased a lot. Lin Feng smiled as he looked at his fists. I wonder how far I am from an intermediate martial grandmaster. Stretching his body and touching his shriveled stomach, Lin Feng immediately revealed a bitter smile. If it wasn't for the fact that he couldn't stand the hunger, he wouldn't have ended his cultivation. 3 days or 4 days? Forget it, I'll fill my stomach first. Time always passed very quickly when one was cultivating. Especially when Lin Feng was in closed-door cultivation, he was completely unaware of the passing of time. After replenishing his physical strength, Lin Feng was about to continue cultivating, but he was suddenly startled. All right, I have unknowingly adapted to the temperature here. Lin Feng was slightly surprised and smiled. My body is not sweating anymore, and my blood flow is not as fast. I can take another step. Lin Feng nodded. The further he went, the higher the temperature, and the higher the density of fire in the air. The cultivation speed was faster. 10 miles. 20 miles. It's here. Lin Feng stopped. The familiar feeling came again. His skin felt like it was on fire, his heart was beating violently, and his body felt extreme pressure. He had reached his limit again. Huff! Inhale, closing his eyes, Lin Feng took a deep breath and quickly entered the state. Cultivate. Outside the fire god, forbidden ground. Black Snake waved his saber and muttered to himself from time to time, comprehending the saber technique. Suddenly, Black Snake stopped, his cold eyes looking at the sea of fire with some impatience. It's been half a month. Why hasn't there been any news? After a pause, Black Snake couldn't help but wonder, could it be that Fire God hasn't returned yet? The Round Table Conference in the Sky City should have ended long ago. Could it be? Black Snake secretly pondered, then turned on his communicator and dialed a number. Beep! There was a long sound. Sir Black Snake. A respectful voice came from the communicator. Is there any news of the prey? Black Snake asked in a deep voice. Sir, no. A respectful male voice said, I have also placed spies in Firmament City, but there is no movement. Well done. Continue to monitor. Black Snake nodded. Inform me immediately if there is any movement. Yes, sir. Ending the call, Black Snake's eyes gleamed coldly, staring at the sea of fire, and smiled coldly. Well, I'll fight with you to see who can last longer. You think it's safe here? When the fire god returns, I'll see how you die. This time, I will never let you escape again. Black Snake was full of confidence. In the blink of an eye, another 7 days had passed. But for Lin Feng, it seemed to be just a moment. Well, I don't know how many days have passed. Lin Feng ate dry food and stretched his muscles and bones. I haven't fought for a long time. I feel uncomfortable all over. Muttering to himself, Lin Feng couldn't help but smile, but unknowingly, he had been infatuated with the pleasure of fighting. Unfortunately, there are no demonic beasts here, and I can't go any further. Shaking his head, Lin Feng couldn't help but think of the outside of the sea of fire. Maybe he's still waiting outside? Lin Feng looked at the fluorescent compass, but he wasn't worried at all. His original purpose was to cultivate, although the process was strange, but he couldn't deny that this place, it was indeed a holy land for cultivation. Let's wait. Lin Feng smiled indifferently. Unfortunately, it would be great if there were enough demonic beasts here. Just as he was muttering, Lin Feng was suddenly startled. Clap! Clapping his hands, Lin Feng smiled bitterly. I'm so stupid. I only wanted to go into the depths of the valley. How could I forget to go to the side? Lin Feng suddenly remembered that before, the members of the rocket squad had hunted demonic beasts in such a way, with a central point as the range, constantly circling around to hunt demonic beasts. Wasn't it similar to what he was doing now? So stupid. Lin Feng smiled. Then, like an arrow piercing through the sky, the cloud shuttle flew away with a whoosh sound. Half an hour later. There it is. Lin Feng faintly saw a red dot. Along with the improvement of his strength, his eyesight also improved greatly. The cloud shuttle suddenly accelerated, and in an instant, clap, it stopped 1,000 meters away. Lin Feng looked at the incomparably huge existence not far away, and couldn't help but open his mouth in surprise, his eyes emitting an incomparably hot light. It was a huge python with a body length of over 100 meters. Its red color made it seem as if its entire body was emitting flames, and the sharp horns on its head were shining with cold light, faintly emitting a fiery red light. Its eyes were closed, and its tail was gently flapping. At this moment, this huge python was quietly resting. Heavens, it's the horde leader of the giant beasts. It was the first time Lin Feng had seen such a huge demonic beast, and he was completely shocked. The strongest fire spiritual beast he had seen before was only 30 meters tall, and the first high-level beast general he had seen in the Lin family village, the blue eyes violent bear, was only 20 meters long. But now, this huge python's body was over 100 meters long. A real monster. Everyone who likes refining the starry sky by fire, please recommend, collect, and reward Xiao Xiao. Thank you. Chapter 86. An elemental level overlord fire spirit beast, no matter how bad its aptitude is, Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. Its inner core can reach 7th grade, and most of them are 6th grade. An 8th grade Earth Spirit pill was worth 50,000 Tianwu coins. So what if it was a 7th grade Fire Spirit pill, or even a 6th grade Fire Spirit pill? Obviously, this was an unimaginable number. It was enough to make any martial artist below Emperor Wu go crazy. Although the giant python in front of him had a frightening aura, Lin Feng was not afraid at all. Instead, he was just excited. Kill! Lin Feng's battle intent surged. Anyway, he had the cloud shuttle. What was there to worry about? In an instant, the two clusters of essence fire shone brightly, revealing a powerful aura. What a powerful primordial fire! Lin Feng was slightly shocked. The essence fire in his hand was no longer red with a tinge of orange, but it was a mixture of red and orange. As if it sensed something, the giant python slowly opened its eyes. Just as it was looking around, a blazing light suddenly flashed in front of it. The giant python's coiled body suddenly straightened, and its eyes emitted an incomparably cold luster. Chi! Its huge body moved in an instant. Such fast speed. Lin Feng was extremely shocked. Its body, which was more than 100 meters long, was as agile as a loach. The giant python tilted its head and instantly dodged the fireball. Hiss! Hiss! The giant python suddenly hissed and quickly locked on a Lin Feng. Pa! The second fireball descended. However, the giant python's huge body streaked across the sky, and it easily dodged it by a hair's breadth. In an instant, the giant python's body condensed like a spring. Rumble, the ground seemed to shake. The giant python actually jumped up and attacked Lin Feng like a hurricane. Its bloody mouth emitted a foul smell. Lin Feng was shocked, but he reacted quickly. The cloud shuttle drew a semicircle and dodged the giant python's bite. At this moment, chance! Lin Feng's eyes lit up. The giant python's body was in the air. There was no room to dodge. In an instant, a fireball gathered in Lin Feng's hands. Chi! Chi! Two fireballs exploded at the same time, one on the left and one on the right. Hiss thump! The giant python suddenly opened its mouth, its pupils flashing with an extremely cold light, and the sharp horn on its forehead emitted a fiery red light. It suddenly tilted its head, and just as it dodged a fireball, another fireball instantly collided with the sharp horn. A loud bang resounded, and blood immediately burst out. The giant python let out a furious roar. And at this moment, an intense red light formed in the python's mouth. Heavens! What is that? Lin Feng's expression changed greatly. When he looked over, he saw that the fireball in the python's mouth was an enhanced version of himself. It had a diameter of 10 meters, and a strong primordial fire aura was spreading out. Just the aura he could faintly feel was filled with extreme destruction. Without a doubt, if he was hit by the fireball, he would definitely die without a burial ground. Lin Feng never imagined that this giant python would be so tyrannical. At this moment, he didn't even have time to escape. I'll fight. Lin Feng fiercely clenched his teeth. His pitch-black pupils emitted an incomparable light and directly shot towards the giant python's cold pupils. In an instant, Lin Feng felt his head rumble, and the sky and earth were spinning. The giant python seemed to have been petrified and was stunned on the spot. Hwah! Hwah! The primordial fire in his hands suddenly lit up. In an instant, two intersecting red and orange fireballs flew towards the giant python's head. And at this moment, the giant python, who had been dazed for a short while, had already regained its senses. It shook its head violently, and its eyes were filled with ferocity. The sharp horn on its forehead shone with a cold light, and the fireball in its mouth became bigger and bigger. But it was too late. Pung, pung, pung. Two consecutive fireballs directly exploded into the giant python's mouth, and immediately, flesh and blood splattered everywhere. The giant python let out an incomparable cry, and its body twitched violently. The fireball in its mouth dissipated like a ray of light, unable to continue. And at this moment, the fireballs arrived again. Lin Feng's sixth gear was sensitive to the primordial fire, and the fireballs came one after another, like endless waves, completely displaying the strength of a firefighter. Die! Lin Feng's eyes burned with passion. Boom! Rumble! The continuous attacks blasted the giant python's head into smithereens, and its incomparably huge body crashed to the ground, as if there was an earthquake. The terrifying sound made one's heart sink. Fresh blood continuously flowed out from the severed head, and mixed with a thick stench, it was a ghastly sight. Huff, huff! Standing on the cloud shuttle, Lin Feng gasped for breath. His face was slightly pale, but his expression was filled with joy and excitement, and the corners of his mouth curled up into a weak smile. At the moment when the giant python spat out the fireball, he almost thought that he was done for. Thank goodness! Lin Feng felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders. Once again, he had relied on this miraculous energy attack to save a life. Glancing at the incomparably spectacular corpse of the giant python on the ground, Lin Feng couldn't help but laugh heartily, expressing the unconcealable excitement in his heart. That was a horde leader of the giant beasts. Not only that, it was a mutated magical beast, a fire spirit beast. Its value is hard to estimate. Lin Feng smiled tiredly and immediately dove down. Fire spirit pill. What a big fire spirit pill. Lin Feng held a round pearl in his hand, his eyes shining. He took out the grade 7 fire spirit pill with his left hand and compared the two. The difference was obvious. This fire spirit pill produced by the giant python was not only dark in color, it was also twice as big. From the fire spirit pill, he could feel a violent and abundant energy. It should be a grade 6 fire spirit pill. Lin Feng nodded. After putting the fire spirit pill into his bag, Lin Feng immediately aimed at the giant python's horn. Apart from the inner core, the most valuable part of this giant python was its shining, sharp horn. Flood Dragon horn, although not fully grown at least, 300,000 Tianwu coins. Lin Feng nodded with satisfaction. Igniting the primordial fire in his right hand, he carefully calcined it. Soon, Lin Feng collected the complete Flood Dragon horn. According to the book, after evolving into a horde leader, the snake will transform into a flood dragon, grow a horn, be covered in scales, and be bestowed with claws. Unfortunately, Lin Feng stared at the giant python's corpse and sighed softly. Maybe because it formed an inner core, it didn't evolve normally. The giant python in front of him still retained the basic characteristics of a snake. It didn't have hard scales, and it didn't have claws. Therefore, it couldn't be considered a flood dragon. The lowest price of a fully grown flood dragon is more than 1 million Tianwu coins. Lin Feng was very clear about the price. Among the horde leaders, flood dragons were one of the more expensive ones. However, Lin Feng put away the flood dragon horn and smiled slightly. The price of a grade 6 fire spirit pill shouldn't be lower than this, right? This place is so big. Obviously, there's more than one horde leader here. Let's rest for a while before we set off. Feeling slightly dizzy, Lin Feng jumped onto the cloud shuttle and closed his eyes. Although he didn't overdraw his energy, the giant python was still a horde leader. He was almost completely drained. Time slowly passed. Pa! Lin Feng opened his eyes. Feeling the abundant energy in his body, he was in a good mood. I've been in the ruins of for a month. At that time, the power of my primordial fire could shatter 256 titanium-grade boulders, which was equivalent to the defense of a high-level beast general. And the giant python I killed just now, its defense should be above average among horde leaders, around 512 titanium grade. In other words, the power of my primordial fire has doubled. Lin Feng nodded, his eyes emitting a scorching light. There was only one reason why the power of his primordial fire had increased so much. He was already an intermediate martial grandmaster. I didn't expect that in a short month, I would have already broken through. Lin Feng found it hard to believe. It's a blessing in disguise. This place is indeed a sacred cultivation ground for fire spirit masters. Gazing into the depths of the valley, Lin Feng felt an extremely hot feeling. The deeper he went, the stronger the density of the fire in the air, and the faster his cultivation speed. At this speed, in 2 to 3 months, my strength should be able to reach the level of an advanced martial grandmaster. As he thought to himself, Lin Feng couldn't help but look at the fluorescent compass in his left hand. It was still closed. Although he could completely erase Wang Hao's location, Lin Feng wasn't willing. Just wait. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled. Wait until the day I become an advanced martial grandmaster. Then we'll settle this. He wasn't a gentleman if he didn't take revenge. Not to mention he had been hunted down twice. This thorn must be pulled out. Day after day passed. Every day was torture for some people. Outside the fire god forbidden grounds, Black Snake and the others were anxious and angry. They wanted to rely on flying treasures to enter the fire god forbidden grounds countless times, but they resisted. After all, entering the fire god forbidden grounds without permission was a capital offense. The fire god might be merciful to fire spirit masters, but to him, he might not be merciful. Black Snake didn't dare to gamble. If he lost, he would lose his life. Damn it, did the fire god come back or not? Bastard, it's already been a month. Black Snake flew into a rage. At this moment, Lin Feng was living quite comfortably. In the first month, other than recovering, he was cultivating and cultivating again. But in the second month, it was different. Every day, he would practice his spear moves and his body movements. When he was itching, he would hunt a few fire spirit beasts. When he was bored, he would close his eyes and cultivate. Lin Feng was having a good time, and it was quite comfortable. Although it was a little lonely, the path of cultivation was to be accompanied by loneliness. Slowly, he got used to it. Most importantly, there were fire spirit pills in his bag every day. In the world, where else could he find such a good place for cultivation? Eating and taking just the 100th one. Lin Feng smiled faintly. At this moment, beside him, the corpse of a giant wolf that was close to 100 meters tall was vivid in his eyes. Blood flowed all over the ground. The fourth one is a horde leader. I wonder how much these 100 fire spirit pills can be sold for. If it's worth 10 million Tianwu coins, I can buy the Dragon Eye potion. At that time, my brother can regain his sight. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. Since he was young, his brother had lost his sight and lost a lot of things. Although he had never said it, he knew that his brother, Lin Yun, was not happy. He wanted to live the life of a normal person. Sighing softly, Lin Feng could not help but think of his family's faces. Unknowingly, he had already stayed here for close to 2 months. After not contacting them for so long, he did not know if his parents were doing well. Almost there. Lin Feng nodded and clenched his fists. When he became a high-rank martial grandmaster, he would leave this place. But now it was not time yet. Looking into the distance, Lin Feng was about to leave. Suddenly, his eyes flashed, and he could not help but let out a soft, "What was that?" Thank you to Ziyin, Coffee, Diwak, Cold Old Wolf, and other friends who have been supporting Xiao Xiao. Thank you to everyone who voted for me and left their valuable opinions. Thank you, Carrot. Chapter 87. Looking at the towering ancient tree that was hundreds of meters tall, Lin Feng's eyes were filled with shock. The trunk alone was 20 meters in diameter. The purple bark was wrinkled and strong, and the roots were intertwined, deeply rooted into the ground. The branches were lush, as if an old man had opened his hands, containing a strong aura of energy. That's a spirit fruit? Looking at the red and purple fruit in front of him, Lin Feng was stunned. Did he see wrongly? Oh my God, it's really the legendary spirit fruit. Caressing the fruit that was the size of a fist, Lin Feng immediately felt a pure energy. His heart was filled with joy and excitement. Spirit herbs were divided into 9 grades, and their grades would increase with age. The longer it lived, the more elemental energy it absorbed, and the higher the grade of the spirit herb. Spirit fruits were the essence of spirit herbs. If a spirit herb was compared to a piece of ore, then the spirit fruit would be the core of the ore. It was the purest and most concentrated part of the energy in the ore. But just like the ore, the core of the ore was very rare. It was the same for spirit fruits. 7th, 8th, and 9th grade spirit herbs had less than 1% chance of producing a spirit fruit. 4th, 5th, and 6th grade spirit herbs had a 10% chance of producing a spirit fruit. Only spirit herbs of 3rd grade and above could produce a spirit fruit. Spirit fruits were a luxury item. They were very precious and rare. I've earned it. Lin Feng plucked the red and purple fruit. Feeling the warm temperature in his hand and the attractive luster, Lin Feng wanted to take a bite, but he resisted the desire. Spirit fruits could strengthen the body and nourish the blood vessels. It had a significant effect on both warriors and ordinary people. I'll leave it for Mother. Lin Feng smiled and kept the fruit. Unlike spirit herbs, spirit fruits did not have any side effects. This was the essence of heaven and earth formed by pure energy. It was the crystallization of energy and the essence of spirit herbs. It only had endless benefits. I wonder what grade spirit fruit it is, Lin Feng murmured. Looking at the towering ancient tree that was several hundred meters tall, Lin Feng smiled in a carefree manner. No matter how he looked at it, it was at least rank 6 and above. Let's take a look around and see if there are any other spirit fruits. Lin Feng thought as he looked around. Then, he turned into a stream of light and disappeared. Whoosh! Whoosh! Riding on the cloud shuttle, Lin Feng flew back and forth at high speed. Sure enough, in this small area, he quickly found a large number of spirit herbs. There must be something fishy going on. Lin Feng nodded with a smile. He had been here for at least 2 months and had visited a large area. Although he couldn't enter the depths of the valley, he still hadn't found a single spirit grass or spirit fruit. But now, he found a towering ancient tree that was at least a few hundred meters tall. It was at least grade 6 or above. Lin Feng wouldn't believe that there weren't any other spirit grasses or spirit fruits around. This one, here too. Lin Feng felt as if he had entered a big garden. He was completely dazzled. As far as his eyes could see, spirit grasses were scattered everywhere, emitting a sparkling luster. He even found a few extremely rare spirit fruits. They were plump and full, making people drool. What treasure land? Lin Feng clicked his tongue. Although he had some doubts in his heart, Lin Feng threw them to the back of his mind and completely forgot about them. If he didn't take the treasure, he would be struck by lightning. Anyway, he could sell these spirit grasses and spirit fruits, even if he couldn't use them. He wouldn't lose anything. It would be a waste if he didn't take them. What he lacked most now was money. 2 hours later. Phew! Lin Feng let out a long breath. Done. Looking around, this land that was originally very rich now seemed to have been raided by bandits, and the ground was dug 3 feet deep. The lush spirit grasses had long disappeared without a trace. Looking at his masterpiece, Lin Feng couldn't help but smile. Right now, his pocket was filled with hundreds of spirit herbs, and there were even close to 10 spirit fruits. Those were spirit fruits, after all. In a virtual hunter shop, even the cheapest one cost more than 100,000 Tianwu coins. For the sake of his mother's health, Lin Feng had looked at it before, but he couldn't do anything about it. He couldn't afford it. Return with a full load. Now, I don't have to worry about my mother's health. Lin Feng said with a smile. No matter how weak one's body was, one spirit fruit could make one grow fat and white. Health. Becoming a martial artist wouldn't be a problem. Just as he was thinking about it, suddenly, rumble, a gust of wind blew. The strong wind carried the stench of a demon beast. Lin Feng was stunned. Roar! Roar! In an instant, the deafening roar of a beast soared into the sky. The loud sound seemed to shake the earth. Lin Feng only felt his eardrums tremble and his heartbeat quicken. He widened his eyes and looked at the source of the sound. It's a horde lord, a very strong one. Let's go and take a look. Lin Feng's eyes shone. Newborn calves aren't afraid of tigers. Lin Feng wasn't afraid at all. He was full of curiosity. Anyway, he had the cloud shuttle. What was there to be afraid of? Whoosh! The cloud shuttle sped forward. In the blink of an eye, it traveled 100 miles. A strong heat wave attacked, like a heat wave. Lin Feng's forehead was instantly covered in sweat. This distance had already reached his current limit. A little more. Lin Feng gritted his teeth. He was a stubborn person. 5 miles. 10 miles. Bang! A huge sound rang out. A monstrous flame seemed to descend from the sky, carrying an orange glow. A terrifying and hot aura filled the sky. Even the sky was burning red, as if it wanted to burn everything to ashes. Lin Feng only glanced at it, and his face was instantly filled with shock. The cloud shuttle drew an arc and dodged, but his back was burning hot. Run! Instantly, Lin Feng ran at full speed. The primordial fire shot out to the limit. The cloud shuttle flew at high speed, leaving behind afterimages. Lin Feng's back was already soaked in sweat, and his face was extremely pale. In that instant, he felt as if he would be annihilated by the endless flames. Just the aura of the flames was already so terrifying and unstoppable. What would happen if he was hit directly? Lin Feng didn't dare to imagine, nor did he have time to think. At this moment, there was only one thought in his mind, and that was, run for your life. What a terrifying monster! Lin Feng panted heavily, and his face was still filled with shock. Although it was just a glimpse, it was already incomparably shocking. That was an extremely huge and terrifying magical beast. It was at least 1,000 meters tall, and its body was covered in fiery red scales. Its thick and strong tail was jagged with sharp spikes, and it had huge wings. Just its eyes alone were more than 10 times bigger than his body. Is that a dragon? Lin Feng couldn't believe it. No, how could it be a dragon? It should be a high-level giant beast leader. Gradually calming down, Lin Feng's thoughts became clearer. He exhaled deeply. Fortunately, I ran fast. Otherwise, I would have been finished. This wyvern monster was far beyond his imagination. Curiosity would kill a cat, but other than that wyvern monster, I seem to have seen something else. Lin Feng frowned slightly, as if recalling something. He slowly closed his eyes, and instantly, the scene just now replayed in his mind like a movie. Scene after scene kept flashing in his mind. From the earth-shattering flames to him seeing the high-level giant beast leader's true body. And then, the scene froze. Lin Feng looked carefully, and suddenly his eyes opened. It's a tree. Lin Feng's face flashed with incomparable shock. That was an unimaginably huge tree. Although it was covered by the wyvern monster's huge body, he could still see the trunk's diameter of a few hundred meters. Even if he couldn't see the top of the tree and couldn't see the full appearance of the tree, he could completely deduce that this was a giant tree that was more than 1,000 meters tall. Spirit fruit. There must be a spirit fruit. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. This giant tree must be at least grade 3. No wonder that wyvern monster didn't chase after us. It must be guarding this giant tree. But so what if I know? Lin Feng immediately shook his head. With his current strength, if he wanted to pick the spirit fruit, it would undoubtedly be like a moth flying into a flame. courting death. Xiaoyang City. Second brother. What should we do? Little one is missing. Shui was so anxious that tears fell. Has the contract been signed? Lin Yun frowned slightly. Pursing her lips, Shui nodded, her face pale. Ah, Lin Yun sighed softly. Silly sister, how can you let others do this kind of thing? But little one and I have always divided the work like this. Shui lowered her head, her voice as soft as a mosquito. Lin Yun sighed slightly. To be exact, he couldn't blame his sister for this matter. The other party deliberately set up a trap for his sister to jump into. What could he do? In the end, Shu was still inexperienced and too immature, so she was deceived. The human heart was the most unpredictable. She could only blame herself for being unlucky. How much do we have to pay? Lin Yun sighed. 10,000 Tianwu coins. Shui lowered her head, her face full of regret and self-blame. Shaking his head, Lin Yun comforted her. Well, Shui, it has happened. Even if it didn't happen, we should think about how to solve it. Remember, don't tell father and mother. I will contact big brother. But second brother, Shui said worriedly. We haven't heard from big brother for a long time, will he? I won't, Lin Yun said resolutely. Yes, Shui nodded heavily. Big brother will be fine. Of course. Lin Yun's voice was very certain. However, his fists were unnaturally clenched tightly. Looking at her second brother's expression, Shui's eyes were filled with deep worry and helplessness. Brother, where exactly are you? Wishing everyone a happy new year in advance. Hey, continue to seek recommendation votes. That you're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.